Dust settled like ash over the crater. Mark Grayson opened his eyes to gray sky. His chest wouldn't expand properly. 3 ribs on the left side were powder, grinding against each other with every shallow breath. The taste of copper flooded his mouth. Blood, his own, pooling in the back of his throat. He tried to move his right arm. The shoulder socket was empty, dislocated. The humerus had separated from the scapula with enough force to tear the rotator cuff completely. His fingers twitched. Good. Nerve damage wasn't permanent. Not that it mattered. Mark rolled onto his side. The movement sent white-hot spikes through his torso. Broken ribs punctured something soft. Lung, probably. He coughed. Red spray misted the rubble in front of his face. The crater was 20 feet deep, 30 feet across. The impact had pulverized concrete and rebar into a fine gray powder that coated everything. Buildings surrounded the depression, what remained of them. The shockwave had blown out windows for 3 blocks. Structural damage radiated outward in concentric circles of destruction. He'd made this crater, or rather, she'd made it by throwing him through 4 buildings at hypersonic speed. Anissa. The name sat in his mind like a tumor. Every time he thought it, his hands trembled. Not from the injuries, from something else. Something that made his stomach clench and his throat close up. Mark pushed himself to his knees. His left leg was broken below the knee, fibula snapped clean, tibia fractured in 3 places. The bone hadn't broken through the skin, but he could feel the pieces grinding together. When he shifted weight, his Viltrumite healing factor was already working. Cells knitting, bone fragments pulling back into alignment. It would take hours, maybe days for the worst of it. Hours he'd spend remembering. The memories came in fragments, disjointed, wrong. Her hands on his wrists, pinning them, his full strength, Viltrumite strength, the kind that could shatter mountains, useless against her grip, her voice, mocking, clinical, explaining the genetics of Viltrumite reproduction like he was a specimen in a lab, like his consent was irrelevant, like he was irrelevant, his struggles pathetic, weak, human, the realization that he couldn't stop her, that all his power, all his training, all the fights he'd won, none of it mattered against a Viltrumite warrior with centuries of combat experience. The humiliation, Mark's hands found purchase on a chunk of concrete. He pulled himself upright, stood on his broken leg because standing was the only thing he could control right now. The pain was clarifying, sharp, real. He looked down at himself. His costume was shredded. The blue fabric hung in strips. The yellow was gone entirely, ripped away or burned away, he couldn't tell. Blood soaked what remained. His blood, dark red against the pale blue. His chest was exposed. Bruises covered his ribs in overlapping purple-black patterns. Handprints. Her handprints where she'd held him down. Mark's vision blurred. Tears? No. Not tears Viltrumites didn't cry. His father had told him that once. Crying was human. Weak. But his eyes were wet anyway. His breath came faster, shallow, panicked. The broken ribs made each inhale agony, but he couldn't slow down. Couldn't control it. His hands shook. His whole body shook. He opened his mouth, tried to scream, tried to let out the thing building in his chest. Rage, or grief, or horror, or all 3 mixed together into something that didn't have a name. Nothing came out. His throat closed. The scream locked behind his teeth. Pressure built in his skull. His vision tunneled. He was going to pass out, going to collapse back into the crater and lie there until someone found him. And then something inside him broke. Not his bones, not his body. Something else, something deeper. The pressure in his chest didn't release. It crystallized, hardened, became something cold and dense and inert. His breathing steadied. The shaking stopped. Mark stood in the crater, covered in blood and dust, and felt the wetness on his face dry. Felt his hands go still. Felt every emotion that had been threatening to overwhelm him get locked away behind a door that slammed shut with the finality of a blast vault ceiling. The silence in his head was absolute. He looked at his trembling reflection in a piece of shattered glass embedded in the rubble. Saw his face, swollen, bruised, broken. Saw his eyes. They were different, empty. The light behind them, the thing that made him Mark, that made him human, was gone. What remained was calculation, assessment, cold tactical analysis. He studied his injuries with detachment, cataloged them, prioritized them: 3 broken ribs, dislocated shoulder, fractured leg, possible internal bleeding, concussion, lacerations, none of it fatal. His mind turned the attack over like a forensic examiner studying evidence. He reviewed every moment, every mistake, every weakness she'd exploited. He'd hesitated. That was the first failure. When she'd grabbed him, he'd pulled his punch, tried to talk, tried to reason, tried to be the hero. She hadn't hesitated. She'd fought like a Viltrumite, pure, efficient, brutal. He'd fought like a human playing pretend. Mark's hands flexed. The shaking was gone completely now. His fingers moved with mechanical precision. He grabbed his dislocated shoulder with his good hand, counted to 3, slammed it against a protruding piece of rebar. The shoulder socket popped back into place with a wet crack. Pain flooded his nervous system. He processed it, filed it away, continued moving. He tested the leg, put weight on it. The bone fragments ground together. Acceptable. He could fly. Walking was irrelevant. Mark rose from the crater, lifted off slowly. Every movement was deliberate, controlled. He hovered at street level, surveying the destruction. 3 blocks, maybe 4, buildings with their facades torn off, cars overturned, fires burning in a dozen locations. Emergency sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer. And scattered throughout the wreckage, people. Some were moving, crawling from debris, calling for help. Others weren't moving at all. Collateral damage, that's what Cecil would call it in his report. Unavoidable casualties resulting from superhuman conflict in populated areas. Mark looked at them and felt nothing. That was new. Before, he would have rushed to help, would have pulled people from rubble, would have stayed until every survivor was accounted for. Before. That version of Mark Grayson was dead, had died in that crater. What remained was something else. Something that understood the only thing that mattered was power, and he hadn't had enough of it. Mark flew upward, not to escape, to gain altitude, to see the city spread below him like a tactical map. Streets were arteries, buildings were cover, people were variables. He hovered at 3,000 feet. The wind at this altitude was cold. It cut through his shredded costume and made the blood on his skin dry and crack. He didn't care. 6 million people. 6 million potential casualties if another Viltrumite decided Earth was worth attacking. If Anissa came back. If Thrag sent reinforcements. And Mark had proven he couldn't protect them. Not as he was. Not with his human weakness intact. His comm unit crackled. Damaged but functional. Cecil's voice cut through static. Mark, we saw. Satellites tracked. Are you? Mark reached up, pulled the comm unit from his ear, looked at it, the small device that connected him to the GDA, to Cecil, to the infrastructure that relied on him being a controllable asset. He crushed it. The plastic casing crumpled, circuit boards snapped. He let the pieces fall, watched them tumble 3,000 feet to the street below. His phone was in his costume, also damaged, also irrelevant. Eve would be calling, his mother would be calling, the Guardians would be trying to reach him. All of them would want to know if he was okay, would want to help, would want to talk about what happened. Mark didn't want to talk. Talking required explaining. Explaining required admitting what she'd done. Admitting meant being vulnerable. Being vulnerable meant being weak. Being weak meant it could happen again. No. He descended, not toward the GDA headquarters in Washington. Toward O'Hare International Airport, commercial flights were grounded. The FAA always shut down airspace after a superhuman incident, but cargo planes would still be operating. He needed to disappear, needed space, needed time to rebuild himself into something that could never be broken again. Mark landed on a deserted runway. His broken leg gave out. He caught himself, forced it to bear weight. Pain was irrelevant. Pain was data. Data informed tactical decisions. A security vehicle approached. Headlights cutting through the afternoon haze. The vehicle stopped 50 feet away. A guard emerged. Middle-aged, overweight, gun at his hip but not drawn. "Sir, this is a restricted area. You need to..." The guard stopped, took in Mark's appearance. The blood, the costume, the empty expression. "Jesus Christ. You're invincible. What happened? Do you need..." "I need a secure location. Somewhere isolated." Mark's voice was flat, toneless. He barely recognized it. The guard's hand moved toward his radio. Mark was in front of him before the hand reached the device. Not flying, just moving fast enough that human reaction time couldn't track it. "Don't," Mark said. "I'm not a threat to you. I need isolation. Point me toward an empty hangar." His hand stayed frozen near the radio. He swallowed. Pointed. "Hangar 7, far end of the tarmac. Been abandoned since the pandemic. No power, no surveillance. Mark turned, started walking. His leg dragged slightly. The bone wasn't set properly yet. He'd fix it later. "Sir," the guard called after him, "do you want me to call someone medical? The GDA?" Just kept walking across the empty runway toward the abandoned hangar. The guard watched him go, eventually returned to his vehicle, drove away, didn't make any calls. Smart man. Mark reached Hangar 7. The door was rusted, padlocked. He grabbed the lock, squeezed, the metal crumpled. The door swung open on protesting hinges. Inside was darkness, dust, the smell of old aviation fuel and decay. Empty space that had once housed aircraft, now it housed nothing. Perfect. Mark walked to the center of the hangar, stood in a shaft of light falling through a hole in the roof. Dust motes swirled in the beam. He watched them drift. Thought about nothing. His phone buzzed. Still functional despite the damage. He pulled it from his costume. Looked at the screen. 47 missed calls. Eve. Cecil. His mother. Alan. The Guardians. Everyone who knew him. Everyone who cared. He powered it off, placed it on the concrete floor, raised his boot, brought it down. The phone shattered. Screen glass. Circuit board. Battery. All of it crushed to fragments. Now he was alone. Truly alone. No communication. No oversight. No one asking if he was okay. Mark sat down in the center of the empty hangar, pulled his knees to his chest. His broken ribs protested. He ignored them. He should feel something. Grief, rage, fear, anything. He felt nothing. The door that had slammed shut in his mind stayed shut. All the emotion locked behind it. All the humanity, everything that made him Mark Grayson instead of just another Viltrumite weapon. Gone. And in its place, clarity, purpose, understanding. He'd been weak because he'd been human. He'd lost because he'd cared about things that didn't matter. Morality, restraint, compassion. Anissa hadn't cared about any of that. She'd fought like a Viltrumite, pure, efficient, dominant, and she'd won. Mark sat in the abandoned hangar as afternoon turned to evening. As the shaft of light moved across the floor and eventually disappeared, as darkness filled the empty space completely, he sat in the dark and planned. Planned how to rebuild himself, how to excise every weakness, how to become something that could never be broken again. He would need training, real training, combat against opponents who wouldn't pull punches, time and space where Earth's gravity wouldn't limit him, access to technology that could enhance what genetics had given him. He would need to cut away everything soft. Everyone who cared about him was a vulnerability. Everyone who loved him was a weakness someone could exploit. He would need to become exactly what Anissa had called him, a weapon, a perfect, efficient, merciless weapon. And when he was ready, he would find her, track her across the galaxy if necessary, and he would show her what she'd created. But first, he needed to get out of this hangar, needed to take the first step. Mark stood. His leg had healed enough to bear weight properly. The ribs still ground together, but the pain was background noise now, manageable, irrelevant. He walked to the hangar door, stepped out into the Chicago night. The city sprawled before him. Lights, life. Millions of people going about their evening completely unaware that one of their protectors had just died and something else had taken his place. Mark looked at it all with empty eyes. Then he flew, not toward home, not toward the GDA, not toward anyone who knew him. He flew into the night sky, leaving Chicago behind, leaving Mark Grayson behind. What remained didn't have a name yet, didn't need one. It just needed to be strong enough that what happened in that crater would never happen again. The GDA headquarters materialized through morning fog like a concrete monument to human ambition. Mark descended from 20,000 feet without slowing. The air around him superheated from friction. His costume, what remained of it, had burned away completely during the night flight from Chicago. He wore only torn pants and dried blood. He landed on the roof access platform doing 60 miles per hour. The impact cratered the reinforced concrete. Alarms shrieked immediately, security protocols engaging, automated weapon systems tracking his signature. Mark walked toward the entrance. The roof access door was reinforced steel, rated to withstand anti-tank weaponry. He grabbed the handle, pulled. The locking mechanism sheared off. The door came away from its frame with a sound like grinding metal. He stepped through into fluorescent lighting and linoleum floors. 2 GDA tactical operatives were rushing up the stairwell. They saw him, stopped, hands moving toward weapons before recognition hit. "Stand down. one of them said into his radio. It's invincible. Repeat, friendly on premises. Mark walked past them without acknowledgement, down the stairs. His footsteps echoed in the concrete stairwell. Behind him, the operatives exchanged glances. Didn't follow. The executive level. Mark emerged into a corridor lined with offices. Staff members looked up from desks, saw him, went silent. He tracked blood across white tile. Every footstep left a red print. His ribs had mostly healed during the flight. The leg was functional. The shoulder ached but worked. He'd pushed his healing factor to its limit. Hadn't eaten in 18 hours. Didn't matter. Cecil's office was at the end of the hall. The door was closed. Mark didn't knock. Turned the handle. Locked. He applied pressure. The lock broke. The door swung open. Inside, Cecil Stedman behind his desk, already standing. Eve Wilkins in a chair to the left. Donald Ferguson at a terminal on the right. All three turned toward the door. Eve's face went from confusion to horror in the space of a heartbeat. Mark? Oh my God, Mark. She was out of the chair and moving toward him before Cecil could intervene. She crossed the distance in 3 steps. Her arms came up to embrace him. Mark didn't move, didn't raise his own arms, stood rigid as she wrapped herself around him. He could feel her heartbeat against his bare chest, rapid, panicked. Her breath hitched. She was crying. I thought, we couldn't find you. The satellite footage showed. Her words came in fragments. Are you hurt? Where have you been? We need to get you to medical. Mark's hands found her shoulders. Gently, precisely. He pushed her away. Eve stumbled back. Her face showed confusion. Mark? Concern written across every feature. Samantha Eve Wilkins. Adam Eve. The person he'd shared a bed with 3 nights ago. The person who told him she loved him. A vulnerability, an exploitable weakness, a liability. We're done, Mark said. His voice was flat, clinical. The room went silent. Even the hum of Donald's computer seemed to quiet. Eve's mouth opened, closed. What? Our relationship is terminated, effective immediately. Mark, you're in shock. I need tactical efficiency. Emotional attachments create exploitable weaknesses. You're a liability I can no longer afford. Eve's face crumpled. The change was immediate, total, like watching a building collapse in slow motion. You don't mean that. Something happened in Chicago. Whatever it was, Nothing happened. Mark's tone didn't change. I reassessed my operational parameters. You don't fit within acceptable risk margins. Operational para. Mark, listen to yourself. You sound like what I should have sounded like years ago. He turned away from her, faced Cecil. I need access to classified files, all available intelligence on Viltrumite combat tactics, Empire movements, and physiological data. Cecil's expression was unreadable behind his scarred face. His one good eye tracked Mark's movements, calculating, Son, I think you need to take some time. Don't call me that. Mark's interruption was sharp, precise. I'm not your son. I'm an asset. Treat me as such. Eve made a sound, half sob, half gasp. Mark didn't turn toward her. Cecil was quiet for a moment. Then he pressed a button on his desk. Donald, clear the room. This conversation is classified. Donald stood immediately, moved toward the door. Eve didn't move. Eve, Cecil said, not unkindly. Give us a minute. No. Her voice was stronger now, angry. No, I'm not leaving him like this. Mark, whatever happened, whatever she did to you. Mark turned, met her eyes. She showed me what I was. Weak, human, vulnerable. I'm correcting that deficiency. You're not deficient. You're traumatized. There's a difference between the outcome is the same. I was compromised. It won't happen again. Mark, please. Eve reached for him. Her hand almost touched his arm. He stepped back. The movement was small, precise, but the message was clear. Eve's hand hung in empty air. She stared at it, then at him. You won't even let me touch you. You want to pretend you don't feel anything? Go ahead. She turned toward the door, stopped, looked back. But I'm not giving up on you. Whatever you think you need to become, whatever you think will protect you, it won't. And when you figure that out, I'll still be here. She left. The door closed behind her with a soft click. Mark watched her go, felt nothing. The door in his mind stayed shut. Cecil gestured to a chair. Sit. I don't need to sit. It wasn't a request. Mark remained standing. Cecil sighed, sat down himself, pulled up a holographic display from his desk. Chicago incident, 43 confirmed casualties. 217 injured, property damage estimated at 400 million, and one very conspicuous absence in the GDA tracking data for the past 18 hours. Tracking protocols are insufficient. I disabled my comm unit and communication device. I noticed. Cecil pulled up another display. Satellite imagery. Thermal tracking. What I'm trying to figure out is why. What happened in Chicago, Mark? A Viltrumite warrior named Anissa engaged me in combat. I was defeated. I've identified the tactical deficiencies that led to my failure. I'm requesting resources to correct them. Cecil's fingers drummed on the desk. That's the official version. Now tell me what actually happened. Mark's jaw tightened fractionally. I just did. You left out the part where you disappeared for 18 hours. Where you're standing in my office covered in dried blood wearing half a costume. Where you just broke up with Eve using language I'd use to decommission a weapons system. Cecil leaned forward. What did Anissa do to you? She demonstrated superior combat capabilities. And nothing. Cecil studied him. The silence stretched. Finally, I've been doing this job for 30 years. I've seen operatives break in every way a human being can break. Some of them recover, most don't. The ones that don't, they convince themselves they're fine. They use words like tactical efficiency and acceptable risk. They cut off everyone who cares about them because caring is weakness. He paused. You know what happens to those operatives? Mark said nothing. They burn out. Or they go rogue. Or they eat a bullet in a motel room in Kansas because the nightmares won't stop and they've eliminated everyone who could have helped them through it. I'm not human, Mark said. Your statistics don't apply. The hell they don't. You're half human. That half is what makes you effective. It's what lets you care about protecting people instead of just dominating them. You lose that, you become your father, or worse. My father abandoned his post, ran away when faced with emotional conflict. I'm not running, I'm adapting. Cecil was quiet. Then he pulled up a personnel file, Mark's file, psychological evaluation flagged, mandatory counseling recommended, restricted duty status until I refuse restricted duty. I'm requesting immediate access to advanced combat training and Viltrumite intelligence databases. Mark, I can't authorize. I'll track Viltrumite Empire movements on my own. Engage targets as I identify them. You can either facilitate that with resources and intelligence, or I disappear and you lose any ability to influence my operations. Cecil's expression hardened. That sounds like a threat. It's a tactical assessment. You need assets capable of engaging Viltrumite-level threats. I'm offering to be that asset, with or without your cooperation. The silence stretched. Cecil's fingers stopped drumming. He pulled up another display. Video footage. Chicago. The aftermath. Bodies being pulled from rubble. You see this? Cecil gestured at the screen. This is what happens when Viltrumites fight in populated areas. 43 people died because you and Anissa decided to have it out in downtown Chicago. That number could have been 400 or 4,000. The only reason it wasn't is because you still pulled your punches, still tried to minimize collateral damage, still cared about the people around you. Mark looked at the footage. Bodies, rubble, grief written across survivors' faces, felt nothing. If you lose that, Cecil continued, if you become what you think you need to become, you'll be more dangerous than any Viltrumite I've ever tracked, because you'll have their power and none of their restraint. No empire oversight, no cultural limitations, just rage and strength. I don't feel rage. Then what do you feel? Mark met his eyes. Nothing. That's the point. Cecil leaned back, stared at him for a long moment, then made a decision. All right, here's what's going to happen. I'll give you access to the files you want. I'll authorize advanced training protocols. But you're going to do it under GDA supervision. You want to become a weapon? Fine. But you're going to be a weapon pointed in the right direction. Acceptable. And you're going to submit to weekly psychological evaluations. No. Non-negotiable. You want my resources. You accept my terms. You miss one eval, this deal ends. Mark calculated psychological evaluations could be manipulated. He could provide acceptable responses, maintain the appearance of cooperation while pursuing his actual objectives. Agreed. Cecil pulled up a holographic keyboard, began typing. I'm flagging you as Black Ops asset, off-books training, classified intelligence access. But Mark, he looked up. The second you become a threat to civilians, The second you cross the line into what your father became, I will put you down myself. Clear? Clear. Donald will set you up with temporary quarters, medical evaluation in 2 hours, training assessment tomorrow at 060. Cecil paused. And Mark, Eve meant what she said. She's not giving up on you, neither am I. We've both seen good people do bad things after trauma. You're not the first, won't be the last. But you're still salvageable. I'm interested in being effective. Those aren't mutually exclusive. Mark turned toward the door. One more thing, Cecil said. Your mother's been calling, non-stop. She saw the Chicago footage. She's terrified. Mark stopped, didn't turn around. Tell her I'm operational. Tell her yourself. No. Mark. She's a liability. Same as Eve. Same as anyone who creates emotional vulnerability. I'm cutting all non-essential attachments. She is now. The door closed behind him. In the hallway, staff members had gathered, watching, whispering. They scattered when he emerged. He walked past them, past offices and conference rooms and break areas. People pressed themselves against walls, avoided eye contact, treated him like a threat. Good. They should. Donald met him at the elevator, handed him a tablet without speaking. Access codes, facility maps, training schedules. Quarters assignment, Mark took it. The elevator descended. Sub-level 3, restricted access. Black Ops, operations. The doors opened onto a corridor lined with armored doors, soundproofed, isolated. Donald led him to the third door on the right, pressed his palm to a scanner. The lock disengaged. Quarters are basic, Donald said, his first words since entering. Bed, desk, bathroom. Commissary is down the hall. Training facility is sub-level 5. Any questions? Mark stepped inside, looked around. 12 by 15 feet. Concrete walls. Fluorescent lighting, a metal frame bed, a desk with a terminal, a bathroom barely large enough to turn around in. It looked like a cell. Perfect. No questions, Mark said. Donald nodded. Started to leave. Stopped. For what it's worth, Eve's right. About not giving up on you. A lot of us feel that way. Mark didn't respond. Donald left. The door closed. Locked automatically. Mark stood in the center of his quarters. Looked at the blank walls, the empty desk, the single bed. This was home now. Not his mother's house, not the apartment he'd shared with Eve. This concrete box where emotional attachments couldn't reach him. He sat at the desk, activated the terminal, began pulling up files. Viltrumite physiology, combat tactics, empire hierarchy, known warrior profiles. And there, Anissa's file, age, approximately 1,500 years, combat experience, extensive, specialization, infiltration and genetics procurement. Mission on Earth, secure genetic material from compatible Viltrumite males for repopulation programs. Mark read the file 3 times, memorized every detail, her strengths, her patterns, her last known location. She was out there, in space, continuing her mission, moving to other worlds, finding other victims, not if he found her first, but first, preparation, training, transformation. Mark closed the file, pulled up training protocols, advanced combat scenarios, zero-G warfare, extreme environment conditioning. He scheduled himself for 18-hour days, every available program, every difficulty level maxed. The terminal flagged a conflict, mandatory rest periods required per GDA health and safety regulations. Mark overrode it. Rest was weakness. Sleep was vulnerability. He'd sleep when he was strong enough that nothing could touch him. A message appeared on the screen. From Eve. I know you won't respond. That's okay. I just want you to know I'm here. When you're ready to talk, when you're ready to heal, I love you. Mark deleted the message, blocked her contact. Another message. From his mother. Mark, honey, please call me. I know something happened. I just want to hear your voice. Please. Deleted. Blocked. He cleared his entire contact list, every friend, every ally, every person who'd ever mattered. All of them were liabilities now. The terminal was clean, empty, perfect. Mark stood, stripped off his remaining costume, looked at himself in the bathroom mirror. Bruises fading, cuts healing, bone structure intact, but the eyes were still wrong, still empty. He touched the glass, looked at the stranger looking back. You were weak, he told the reflection. You deserved what happened, but that version is dead now. What comes next won't make the same mistakes." The reflection stared back. Agreed. Mark turned away from the mirror, lay down on the metal bed, stared at the ceiling. Didn't sleep, didn't dream, just calculated. Anissa's last known trajectory, coalition tracking data, projected routes based on Empire movement patterns. He'd find her, eventually. And when he did, she'd learn what she'd created. But first, evolution, transformation. The death of Mark Grayson and the birth of something that would make Viltrumites afraid. The concrete walls absorbed his breathing, the fluorescent lights hummed, the locked door kept the world out. And in his cell, the weapon that used to be a hero began its refinement. The seismic activity registered on GDA sensors at 3:47 a.m. Mark was in the sub-level 5 training facility when the alert came through. He'd been there for 11 hours, running combat simulations against progressively more difficult opponents. The current scenario pitted him against 3 Viltrumite-class targets simultaneously. He'd killed the simulated enemies 47 times, died twice. Unacceptable ratio. The alert flashed across the holographic display. Magnitude 6.2 earthquake. Epicenter, downtown Pittsburgh. Pattern analysis, artificial origin. Signature match, dock seismic. Mark ended the simulation mid-execution. The virtual Viltrumites dissolved into pixels. He walked to the terminal, pulled up the threat assessment. Dock seismic. Real name, unknown. Power source, experimental seismic suit. Threat level, moderate. Previous encounters, 4. Outcome, incapacitation and arrest. 4 times, current status, escaped custody 6 days ago. The file showed prison transport footage. Dock seismic laughing as GDA operatives loaded him into an armored vehicle, promising he'd be back, promising the next earthquake would level a city. Mark had let him live. 4 times. Believed in rehabilitation, second chances, the fundamental goodness of people. That version of Mark was dead. He pulled up real-time satellite imagery. Downtown Pittsburgh. Buildings swaying, streets cracking open, civilians running, panic. Dock seismic would be underground, in the tunnels, using his suit to fracture the tectonic plates beneath the city, building toward a catastrophic release that would flatten everything within a 2-mile radius. Standard protocol. Locate seismic, disable his suit, extract him for trial, minimize casualties, preserve infrastructure where possible. Mark closed the protocol file. He walked to the armory, selected a black tactical suit, no colors, no insignia, no identity, just reinforced Kevlar and equipment harnesses. He geared up in silence. The suit felt different from his costume, heavier, more restrictive, designed for humans who couldn't survive bullets. He wore it anyway. The Mark Grayson who'd worn bright colors and smiled for cameras was gone. What remained needed camouflage, needed to operate in shadows. The flight to Pittsburgh took 8 minutes. He descended through cloud cover at terminal velocity, pulled up at 500 feet, scanned the city with enhanced vision. There, a fissure in Grant Street, 40 feet deep, still expanding. The seismic waves were emanating from below, approximately 200 feet down. Mark dove into the fissure. The descent was vertical. Concrete walls flashed past. Rebar jutted like broken bones. Water mains had burst. Sewage mixed with groundwater. The smell was overwhelming. He ignored it. At 200 feet, the fissure opened into a cavity. Man-made. Subway tunnel partially collapsed. And there, in the center of the destruction, surrounded by his earthquake-generating equipment, dock seismic. The man's suit was a patchwork of stolen technology. Seismic generators mounted on arms and legs, a control harness across his chest, cables running to a central power core that pulsed with each tremor. He was facing away from Mark, focused on his instruments, laughing. Yes, yes, the resonance frequency is perfect. The entire tectonic shelf is going to... Mark hit him from behind. No warning, no announcement, pure kinetic force. Mark's fist connected with the back of Seismic's skull. The impact drove the man forward into his own equipment. The seismic generators shattered. Cables tore free. The power core sparked. Dock Seismic crumpled, tried to stand. Mark's boot caught him in the ribs. Bone cracked. Seismic gasped, curled into a fetal position. Wait, Invincible, we can talk. I surrender. Mark grabbed Seismic's right arm, the one with the primary seismic gauntlet still attached. Seismic tried to activate it. Mark's grip tightened. The metal housing crumpled. The delicate machinery inside compressed, shattered. Seismic screamed. Mark grabbed the left arm. Same process. Crush the gauntlet, destroy the equipment. Seismic's screaming got louder, more desperate. Please stop. I'll go quietly. Mark looked at him, really looked. A middle-aged man in a broken suit, face twisted in pain and terror, begging 4 times Mark had fought him. 4 times Mark had shown mercy. 4 times Doc Seismic had escaped or been released and caused more destruction, more deaths, more suffering. Mercy was weakness. Compassion was failure. The cycle ended now. Mark's hand found Seismic's throat. "You've had enough chances," Mark said. His voice was flat, clinical. Seismic's eyes went wide. No. You're a hero. You don't." Might as well have been trying to move a mountain. Mark held the pressure, watched Seismic's face turn purple, watched the light fade from his eyes, watched him stop moving. He held it for another 30 seconds, making sure, then he released. The body slumped to the tunnel floor, eyes staring, mouth open, dead. Mark stood, looked at the corpse, felt nothing. He activated his comm unit, the one Cecil had given him for Black Ops work. Encrypted, untraceable. "Target neutralized," Mark said. Cecil's voice came back immediately. "Confirmed neutralization? You have him in custody. Confirmed termination? Target is deceased." Then, deceased. "Mark, the mission parameters were..." The mission was to stop the seismic activity. Activity stopped. Mission complete. "We needed him alive for interrogation. His technology is destroyed. He won't build more." Problem solved. Mark could hear Cecil breathing, calculating, processing. "Extract to GDA facility. We need to discuss mission protocols." Second target identified. En route. Mark ended the transmission. Flew up through the fissure, emerged into Pittsburgh dawn. The city was settling. Buildings had stopped shaking. Emergency services were mobilizing. People were emerging from shelters. They saw him, pointed. Some waved, still thought he was a hero, still believed in him. They were wrong. Mark flew west, accessed GDA databases remotely, flagged active threats within operational range. There, the Mauler twins. Last seen 6 hours ago, attempting to steal experimental weapons from a military research facility outside Cincinnati. Currently holed up in an abandoned factory. Local authorities maintaining perimeter but unable to breach. Standard protocol, negotiate surrender. The Maulers were scientists. Criminals, yes, but valuable. Their cloning technology was decades ahead of conventional science. They could be assets, resources. Mark deleted the protocol file. Cincinnati appeared below. He descended to the factory perimeter. Police cars surrounded the building, SWAT teams in position, waiting for GDA support. Mark landed in front of the building's main entrance. Police shouted warnings, told him to wait for backup. He walked through the doors. Inside, darkness. The factory had been abandoned for years. Machinery sat rusted and silent. Dust coated everything. The Maulers were in the center of the floor, identical twins in matching purple suits, surrounded by stolen equipment, arguing with each other about which was the original and which was the clone. Same argument they'd been having for years. They saw Mark, stopped mid-sentence. "Oh, thank God," one of them said. "Invincible. Listen, this is all a misunderstanding. We were just..." Faster than they could track, his fist connected with the left Mauler's jaw. The impact lifted him off his feet, sent him tumbling backward into a rusted lathe. His skull connected with the metal housing, cracked. The right Mauler froze, stared at his twin's body. Looked at Mark. "You killed him." "Rebuild him," Mark said. "I'll come back." He dropped the Mauler. The man collapsed, gasped, stared at Mark with undisguised terror. What are you?" Walked toward the exit. Behind him, the surviving Mauler crawled to his twin's body, started crying, promising to fix this, to bring him back. He would. The cloning process took days, maybe weeks, but he'd do it. Rebuild his twin, and then they'd both remember what happened when they crossed Mark Grayson. Fear was a tool, more effective than imprisonment, more permanent than rehabilitation. Mark emerged from the factory. Police were shouting questions, demanding status updates. He ignored them, flew away. The comm unit crackled. "Cecil, Mark, respond. What's your status? Returning to base. Neutralized how? Mark, I need confirmation. Doc, Seismic is dead. One Mauler twin is dead. The other is terrified. Villain activity in both cities will drop to 0. Efficiency achieved. Efficiency, Mark, you can't just execute. They had multiple chances. They rejected rehabilitation. Continued to threaten civilians. I eliminated the threats. Isn't that the mission? Cecil's voice was tight, controlled. Get back here now. We need to discuss your methods. My methods achieved mission objectives with 0 collateral damage and permanent threat removal. What's there to discuss? The fact that you're killing people. The fact that you're supposed to be a hero, not an executioner. I'm not a hero. You said it yourself. I'm a weapon. Weapons eliminate targets. I'm doing exactly what you wanted. That's not... Cecil stopped, took a breath. Mark, come back to base. That's an order. Acknowledged. Mark altered course, headed toward GDA headquarters. 3 hours until his next training session. Enough time to debrief. To endure Cecil's lecture about proportional response and rules of engagement. None of it would change anything. The path was set. The decision made. He landed on the GDA roof at 6:23 a.m. The sun was rising. Golden light across Washington, D.C. The city looked peaceful from above. Clean. Ordered. Illusion. Below the surface was chaos, criminals, threats, problems that required solutions. Mark descended into the building. Cecil was waiting in his office. Eve was there too, and Donald. And 3 people Mark didn't recognize. Suits. Official bearing, Congressional Oversight Committee probably. Mark entered. Everyone turned to look at him. His tactical suit was still clean. No blood. Doc Seismic had died from asphyxiation. The Mauler had died from blunt force trauma. Both clean kills. Sit, Cecil said. Mark remained standing. One of the suits spoke. Senator Reynolds. Mark recognized him from news coverage. Mr. Grayson, we've reviewed the incident reports from Pittsburgh and Cincinnati. 2 confirmed fatalities, both caused by your direct action. Care to explain? Threats were eliminated. Cities are secure. No civilian casualties. That's not what I asked. I asked you to explain why you killed 2 people when you could have incapacitated and arrested them. Previous incapacitation and arrest proved ineffective. Doc Seismic has escaped custody 4 times. The Mauler twins 3 times. Recidivism rate for superpowered criminals is 73%. Permanent removal drops that to 0. Permanent removal? You mean murder. I mean threat elimination. Define it however you want. This is exactly what we were afraid of, another suit said. Senator Chen, an unaccountable asset with no oversight, no restraint, operating under his own interpretation of justice. I operate under GDA authority, Mark said. Director Stedman authorized my Black Ops status. My actions fall within my operational parameters. He was staring at Mark with an expression somewhere between anger and resignation. My authorization, Cecil said slowly, was for advanced training and intelligence access, not for unsanctioned executions. The missions were sanctioned. The methods were my discretion. Methods matter, Mark. They're what separate us from the people we fight. No, results matter. Civilians are alive because I stopped those threats. Permanently. That's what separates us. I protect people. They hurt people. Simple. Mark, you killed them, took their lives, made yourself judge, jury, and executioner. That's not protection, that's effective, Mark interrupted. Call it whatever makes you feel better. The outcomes are what matter. The outcomes are 2 dead men. Eve was standing now. 2 people who maybe could have been helped, rehabilitated. They didn't want help. They wanted to hurt people. I stopped them, permanently. You murdered them. I protected innocents from repeat offenders. If that's murder, fine. I'll be a murderer. Better than being weak. The room went silent. Everyone stared at him. Mark met their gazes. One by one, didn't flinch, didn't apologize. Senator Reynolds stood. This is unacceptable. We're recommending immediate suspension pending psychological evaluation and possible criminal charges. Cecil raised a hand. With respect, Senator, that's not your call. Mark operates under GDA jurisdiction. We handle our own assets, not when those assets become murderers. When those assets prevent catastrophic loss of life, Cecil corrected. Mark's actions, while extreme, did prevent 2 ongoing threats from causing further damage. That counts for something if we abandon the principles we're supposed to uphold. Mark stopped listening. Let them debate philosophy and ethics and proper protocol. None of it changed reality. Doc Seismic was dead. The Mauler twin was terrified. Both cities were safer. Results, the only metric that mattered. Eventually, the senators left, made threats about oversight hearings and budget restrictions. Cecil let them posture. They had no real power here. When the door closed, Cecil turned to Mark. "You know what you've done." "Yes, my job." "Your job was threat response, not execution." "Execution is a form of threat response, permanent, guaranteed." Cecil was quiet for a moment. Then, "You're going to force my hand. Keep pushing like this and I'll have to bench you, lock you down. Maybe worse." "You won't." "Why not?" "Because I'm right. Villain recidivism just dropped. Every criminal in the country just got the message. There are consequences now. Real ones. You can lecture me about methods all you want, but the statistics will prove me right." Cecil stared at him. "You've changed." "Yes. I'm not sure I can work with this version of you." "Then don't. I'll operate independently. But either way, threats get eliminated. Your choice is whether you want that happening with coordination or without it." Eve was crying silently. Mark could see it in his peripheral vision, didn't look at her, couldn't afford to. Cecil made a decision. "Fine, continue your training. But Mark," he leaned forward, "the second you kill a civilian, the second you cross that line, I will put you down myself, Viltrumite physiology or not. Clear. Let me help you." He looked back, saw her face, tears, concern, love, saw a liability, a weakness, an attachment that could be exploited. "There's nothing to help," he said. "This is who I am now. Accept it or don't, your choice." He left the office. The door closed behind him. In the hallway, staff members pressed against walls, whispered, stared. Let them stare, let them fear. Fear kept people in line, kept them from making stupid choices. Mark descended to sublevel 5, back to training, back to refinement. He had work to do, villains to terrify, threats to eliminate, and somewhere in space, a Viltrumite named Anissa, still alive, still operating, still believing she was the apex predator. She'd learn different, eventually, but first, more training, more evolution, more separation from the weak thing he used to be. The training room doors closed. Locked. The simulations began, and in the darkness, the weapon refined itself. The R&D laboratory was 3 levels below the training facility. Mark stood in the center of the weapons development chamber, surrounded by holographic displays and fabrication equipment. Dr. Emil Kowalski circled him, taking measurements with a handheld scanner. The device beeped with each pass. "Bone density is remarkable," Kowalski muttered. "Reading data on a tablet, cellular structure unlike anything I've seen. Your DNA is literally rewriting conventional biology textbooks. Let the scientist work." "These readings," Kowalski stopped, looked at Mark. "The regeneration factor alone could revolutionize medicine. If we could isolate the genetic sequence that—" "I'm not here for medical research," Mark interrupted. "Show me the weapons." Kowalski's expression shifted, disappointment replaced by unease. He pressed a button on the wall. A section of floor slid aside. A weapons rack rose from below. 3 devices, each designed specifically for Mark's physiology. Sonic disruptors, Kowalski said, gesturing to the first set. Gauntlets with built-in emitters. Targeted frequency generators. Viltrumites have an inner ear structure that's vulnerable to specific sonic wavelengths. These disrupt equilibrium, cause vertigo, induce nausea. At full power, they can rupture the cochlea completely. Mark picked up the gauntlets. Heavy. The emitters were positioned across the knuckles. He slid them on. Tested the fit. Perfect. "Activation?" he asked. "Pressure sensor in the palm. Squeeze and the emitters engage. Duration is limited. Battery life gives you approximately 45 seconds of continuous output before needing to recharge. Use it sparingly." Mark squeezed. The gauntlets hummed, frequency below human hearing range. But he could feel it, pressure building in his inner ear, uncomfortable, disorienting. He released. The sensation faded. "Next," he said. Kowalski moved to the second display, showed Mark what looked like brass knuckles, but the metal was wrong, too dark, too dense. "Ragnite alloy," Kowalski said. We synthesized it based on data from the Viltrumite scourge virus. The molecular structure is designed to disrupt Viltrumite cellular regeneration at the point of impact. It won't kill on its own, but it prevents healing, makes injuries permanent, or at least significantly slower to repair. Mark picked up the knuckles, felt the weight, heavier than they looked. He slid them over his right hand. The metal was cold against his skin. "Test it," Kowalski said, pointed to a reinforced testing block. "Hit that. Full strength." Mark drove his fist into the block. The ragnite connected with a sound like shattering glass. The block cracked, fractured, a spiderweb of damage spreading from the impact point. More importantly, his knuckles hurt. Actually hurt. The ragnite was disrupting his own healing factor. He could feel the damage persisting. Normally, a punch like that would heal instantly. This wasn't healing. He pulled the knuckles off. Watched his hand. The skin was bruised, swelling. It took 3 minutes for the damage to fade. "Effective," Mark said. "Against you, yes. Against another Viltrumite," Kowalski shrugged. "Should be even more so. Their cellular structure is purer, less human interference. The ragnite should be more effective." Mark put the knuckles in a equipment case, moved to the third display. Kowalski's expression darkened. "This one is complicated." On the display, a syringe, clear liquid inside, faintly purple, scourge virus sample, Kowalski said. "Heavily modified. We've been studying the strain that nearly wiped out the Viltrumite Empire. This is a controlled dose, enough to trigger an immune response in your system without killing you. Theoretically. Your human half complicates things. Pure Viltrumites have documented reactions to the virus. Hybrids," he shrugged. "You'd be the first test subject, could grant you immunity, could kill you. Could trigger a mutation we can't predict." Mark picked up the syringe, looked at the liquid. "What's the probability of immunity?" 40%, maybe 50. "And if it kills me?" "Then we learn valuable data about hybrid resistance to Viltrumite bioweapons." Mark held the syringe up to the light. The liquid swirled, possibility and death in equal measure. "Do it," he said. Kowalski blinked. "What?" Administered the dose. "Now, Mark, I just said there's a 50% chance this kills you. I heard you." "Do it anyway." Kowalski stared at him. "You're serious. If Anissa encounters the scourge virus, I need immunity. If I die during the test, the immunity was impossible anyway. Either outcome is acceptable." That's insane logic. That's tactical logic. Eliminate variables. Test assumptions. Accept consequences. Do it. Kowalski was quiet for a long moment. Then he pulled on gloves, prepared the injection site, Mark's left arm, found the vein. "For the record," Kowalski said, "I'm noting in my report that I advised against this. Strongly. Noted." The needle went in. The plunger depressed. Purple liquid entered Mark's bloodstream. For 3 seconds, nothing happened. Then Mark's entire nervous system caught fire. Not metaphorically. Literally. Every nerve ending from his brain to his toes ignited with pain. Pure. Undiluted. Overwhelming. He dropped to his knees. Couldn't control the fall. His muscles locked. Spasmed, his vision went white, then black. Kowalski was shouting. "Medical team, emergency protocols, code something." The words didn't make sense. Mark's body convulsed. His spine arched. Bones ground against each other. His healing factor was fighting the virus. Cells dying, regenerating, dying again. A war at the cellular level. His heart stopped, restarted, stopped again. Lungs wouldn't inflate, couldn't get air. Drowning on dry land, his vision tunneled. Darkness creeping in from the edges. This was it. The 50% chance he'd gambled and lost. Acceptable outcome. At least he'd know. His heart restarted. Third time. Stayed beating. Air flooded his lungs, painful, burning. But functional, the pain didn't fade, just became manageable. Background agony instead of all-consuming fire. Mark opened his eyes. He was on the floor, medical team surrounding him. Kowalski's face above, pale and terrified. Responsive, pulse stabilizing. He's, Mark, can you hear me?" Mark pushed himself up, shoved away the medics, stood, swayed, caught himself on the equipment rack. "Status?" His voice was raw, throat damage from screaming he didn't remember doing. Kowalski stared. You survived. Jesus Christ, you actually survived." Checked the readings. Checked again. Antibodies present. Massive concentration. Your immune system is. He stopped, looked at Mark. You're immune. The virus is neutralized. You actually did it. Body hurt everywhere. Muscles felt shredded. Bones ached, but he was standing, breathing, alive, and immune. Log the results, Mark said. I need the data. You need medical observation? That was... Log the results. I have training in 30 minutes. Mark walked toward the exit. Each step was agony. Didn't matter. Pain was data. Data informed improvement. He made it to the hallway before his legs gave out, caught himself on the wall, breathed, waited for the shaking to stop. It took 10 minutes. Then he continued walking. 3 weeks later, Mark stood in an observation deck watching Earth recede. The GDA shuttle was headed for a classified location. Cecil's voice came through the comm system. Coordinates locked. ETA to training site, 40 hours. Mark didn't respond, just watched his home planet shrink. Blue and white and green. Fragile, vulnerable. Protected only by the handful of beings strong enough to defend it. The number of those beings had just decreased by 1. Mark was leaving, removing himself from Earth's defense to pursue something more important. Evolution. You sure about this? Cecil asked. 3 months is a long time. A lot can happen. Earth has the Guardians. It has you, it'll survive. That's not what I'm worried about. I'm worried whether you'll come back from this. Mark looked at his reflection in the viewport. 3 weeks of constant training. No sleep. Minimal food. Just combat drills and strength conditioning and tactical scenario planning. He'd lost weight. Muscle mass replaced by something leaner, denser, more efficient. His face looked gaunt, hollow. The eyes were still empty. I'm not coming back, Mark said. The version that left is staying gone. What returns will be different. That's what I'm afraid of. The shuttle continued into deep space, past the moon, past Mars, into the belt. The destination was a dead moon in the outer system. No name, just a designation, training site Gamma 7, abandoned Viltrumite way station, gravity 10 times Earth standard, atmosphere toxic, surface temperature fluctuating between 300 degrees and -200. Perfect. The shuttle landed 36 hours later. Mark stepped out in a reinforced environment suit. The gravity hit him immediately. 10 times Earth. Every movement required 10 times the effort. He took 5 steps. Collapsed. The suit's servos whined, trying to compensate. Failing, Cecil's voice through the helmet comm. Servos are rated for 5G. You're in 10. Recommend you. Mark disabled the servos. The suit became dead weight. 300 pounds of equipment he now had to move manually. He pushed himself up, stood, took another step, then another. Each step was agony. His muscles screamed. Bones creaked under the load. Viltrumite physiology was designed for this, could adapt to this, but it took time. He had 3 months. Mark walked to the way station structure, abandoned for centuries, Viltrumite architecture, built to last, built to test warriors. Inside, training equipment, gravity wells that could be adjusted, combat simulators, meditation chambers, everything a Viltrumite warrior needed to prepare for war. Mark sealed the entrance behind him, removed the environment suit. The gravity crushed down on him. He fell to his knees, then to his hands, then flat on his stomach. 300 pounds of his own body weight pressing down. In Earth gravity, he could lift buildings. Here, he could barely lift himself. He lay there for 30 minutes, learning to breathe under the pressure, learning to move. Eventually, he managed to push himself up, to his knees, then to his feet. Victory. He took inventory. The way station had supplies, food concentrates designed for Viltrumite metabolism, water reclamation systems, power still functional after centuries. The empire built to last. Mark set a schedule, 20 hours training, 4 hours rest, no deviation, no mercy on himself. Day 1, learn to walk. Take 1,000 steps without falling. Failed. Managed 300 before his legs gave out. Day 3, complete the 1,000 steps. Succeeded. Moved to running. Day 7, run a mile in 10G. Failed. Made it half a mile before vomiting from exertion. Day 14, complete the mile. Succeeded. Moved to combat drills. Day 21, spar against combat simulators in 10G. Lost every match. The increased gravity made his movement slow, predictable. Day 40, win first match against simulator. Opponent was set to standard Viltrumite combat parameters. Mark won by 3 seconds. Unacceptable margin. Day 60. Consistently defeat standard opponents. Move to advanced parameters. Lost again. Day 75. Advanced parameters defeated. Moved to extreme parameters. Opponents based on historical Viltrumite champions. Lost 90% of matches. Day 90. Win rate improved to 40%. Still unacceptable. Anissa had centuries of experience. 40% wouldn't be enough. Mark pushed harder. Eliminated the 4-hour rest period. Trained 24 hours straight. His body started shutting down. Hallucinations. Muscle failure. Couldn't continue. Reduced to 22 hours. 2 hours rest. Sustainable. Brutal. But sustainable. Day 100. Win rate against extreme parameters reached 60%. Better. Still not enough. Mark activated the Waystation's research database. Viltrumite combat tactics. Historical battles. Warrior profiles. Found Anissa's record. 1,400 years of service. 347 confirmed kills. Specialization. Infiltration and close quarters combat. Weakness. Overconfidence and prolonged engagements. Mark studied every fight, every tactic, every pattern. Memorized her combat style, her preferred strikes, her defensive positions. Then he programmed a simulator specifically to counter her. Day 110, fought the Anissa simulator. Lost in 40 seconds. Day 120, lasted 5 minutes. Still lost. Day 130, fought to a draw. Both him and the simulator 2 damage to continue. Day 140, won. First victory against the Anissa simulator. Took 8 minutes. Used sonic disruptors at optimal frequency. Ragnite knuckles to prevent healing. Targeted her overconfidence. Made her think she was winning. Then reversed. Victory. Mark ran the simulation again. Won in 6 minutes. Again. 4 minutes. Again. 2 minutes by day 150, he could defeat the Anissa simulator in under 60 seconds. Every time. Without fail. Still not enough. The simulator was based on historical data. The real Anissa would adapt, would learn, would be unpredictable. Mark needed to be better than unpredictable, needed to be inevitable. He increased the gravity to 15G, collapsed immediately, spent 3 days learning to walk again, another week to run, 2 weeks to fight. The pain was constant now, every moment. His body was breaking down and rebuilding constantly. Healing factor pushed to absolute limits. He stopped eating, just consumed nutrient paste. Stopped sleeping in a bed, just collapsed where he stood when his body forced rest. Stopped thinking about Earth, about Eve, about his mother, about anything except combat, victory, revenge. Day 180 fought in 15G against extreme parameters. Won 80% of matches. Day 200, won 95%. Day 210, won every match. Perfect record across 50 consecutive fights. Day 220, increased to 20G. Collapsed, started the process again. Day 240, functional in 20G. Basic combat capability restored. Day 260, advanced combat capability in 20G. Defeating standard opponents in 20G. Day 280, defeating extreme opponents, including Anissa simulator. Day 290, perfect record across all difficulty levels in 20G. Day 300, Mark stood in the center of the training facility, 20 times Earth gravity pressing down on him. He didn't feel it anymore. His body had adapted, evolved, become something that could function in conditions that would kill most Viltrumites. He deactivated the gravity well. Normal gravity returned. His body felt weightless, impossibly light. He could move faster than thought now, react faster than conscious decision-making. He'd transcended what he was. Mark accessed the Waystation's communication array, sent a message to Cecil. Training complete, returning to Earth. Cecil's response came 8 hours later. Understood. Shuttle dispatching. ETA 72 hours. Mark, how are you? 90 days of torture. 3 months of systematic self-destruction and reconstruction. His body was lean, scarred. Every excess ounce of mass burned away. What remained was pure function, pure violence. His face was unrecognizable, gaunt, hollow. The eyes were dead. Operational, he sent back. He spent the remaining 72 hours in meditation, Viltrumite meditation. emptying the mind, achieving perfect tactical clarity. When the shuttle arrived, he boarded without ceremony, without looking back at the moon where he'd killed and resurrected himself 100 times. The flight to Earth took 40 hours. Mark spent it in hibernation, conserving energy, preparing. When he woke, Earth filled the viewport. Home. The planet he'd sworn to protect. The planet that had made him weak. Never again. The shuttle landed at GDA headquarters. Mark stepped out into Washington humidity. The gravity felt wrong, too light, like he was floating. Cecil was waiting on the tarmac, took one look at Mark. His expression shifted. Shock, maybe fear. Jesus Christ, Cecil said. What did you do to yourself? Mark looked at him. I evolved. You look like you've been through hell. I have. Now I'm ready. Ready for what? Mark pulled up his personal tablet, showed Cecil the data he'd compiled. Coalition tracking information, Viltrumite Empire movement patterns, projected routes based on Anissa's mission parameters. I've triangulated her location, Mark said. Sector 817, Thalia, 9. Viltrumite Forward Operating Base. She's there, consolidating resources, preparing for her next recruitment mission. Cecil studied the data. This is solid intelligence. We should coordinate with the coalition, launch a joint operation. I'm going alone. Mark, that's suicide. You can't take on an entire Viltrumite outpost by yourself. Mark met his eyes. Yes, I can. Something that made him go quiet. You really believe that? I know that. 3 months training, perfect combat record across all parameters, immune to scourge virus, enhanced physiology from high-gravity conditioning, equipped with anti-Viltrumite technology. I am ready. Or you're obsessed, traumatized, suicidal. Call it whatever helps you accept this. I'm going. With or without GDA support? Cecil was quiet for a long moment. Then, I can't stop you, can I? A coalition strike team. Something? No. This is between me and her. No one else. Cecil pulled up his tablet, made notes. I'll provide you with a stealth ship, coalition transponder codes, emergency extraction coordinates. But Mark, he looked up. If you do this, if you kill her, there's no coming back. You understand that? You'll have crossed a line you can't uncross. Mark looked at Earth, at the blue marble that had been his home, his responsibility, his weakness. I already crossed that line, he said. In Chicago, in that crater, the Mark Grayson who cared about lines died there. What you're looking at now is what she made, and she's going to learn what that means. Cecil nodded slowly. Ship will be ready in 6 hours. Coordinates uploaded to your navigation system, Mark. He paused. Good luck. Whatever that means now, Mark didn't respond. Just walked toward the facility, toward the armory, toward the equipment he'd need for the hunt. Anissa was 3 weeks away at maximum velocity. 3 weeks to prepare, to plan, to imagine the moment when he'd show her what she'd created. She wanted to prove Viltrumite's superiority, wanted to break him, make him submit. She'd succeeded, just not the way she'd intended. Mark smiled. The expression felt wrong on his face. Unused muscles, forgotten motion. He was going hunting, and the prey had no idea the predator was coming. The stealth ship cut through the void like a blade through water. Mark sat in the pilot's chair, watching stars drift past. The ship was coalition design, angular, efficient, built for reconnaissance missions deep in hostile territory. Its hull absorbed radar, its engines ran cold. On sensors, it would register as space debris. Perfect for what came next. 3 weeks of travel, Mark spent the time reviewing intelligence, Anissa's combat footage, Viltrumite tactical doctrine, base layouts for standard forward operating posts, every piece of data that might give him an edge. He also spent it not sleeping. Sleep meant dreams. Dreams meant remembering. Remembering meant feeling. The door in his mind stayed shut, had to stay shut. If it opened now, if the emotions came flooding back, he'd break, again, differently this time, permanently. So he didn't sleep, just entered a meditative state for 2 hours every rotation. Viltrumite rest. Enough to keep his body functional, not enough to dream. On day 18, the coalition transponder picked up a signal. Automated beacon, Viltrumite frequency, broadcasting coordinates. Thalia, 9. Mark altered course, began deceleration. The target system appeared on the navigation display. Single star. 3 planets. Thalia, 9 was the outermost, a dead rock with no atmosphere, no strategic value, perfect for a way station nobody would look for. Mark approached from the dark side, engines at minimum power, drifting on momentum. At 10,000 kilometers, he cut all power except life support. Let the ship coast, the outpost appeared through the viewport. Viltrumite construction, brutal. Functional, a cluster of domed structures built into the moon's surface. No aesthetic considerations, just shelter and storage and training facilities. Mark scanned for heat signatures. Found 3, 2 in the command dome, 1 on patrol. All Viltrumite biology, the power output was consistent with standard warrior physiologies, and one signature significantly stronger than the others. Command dome, central chamber. Anissa, Mark felt nothing looking at that heat signature. No rage, no fear, just cold calculation. Target acquired, mission parameters set. Execute. He suited up. Black tactical gear, sonic gauntlets, Ragnite knuckles stored in equipment pouches, no identification, no insignia. If he died here, there'd be nothing to trace back to Earth. Mark opened the airlock, stepped into vacuum. The cold hit immediately. Negative 200 degrees, lethal to humans in seconds. Uncomfortable for Viltrumites. Manageable. He oriented toward the outpost. 10 kilometers, he flew slowly, carefully, no sonic boom, no heat signature. Just a dark shape moving through darker space. The patrol was below. A Viltrumite male, young, maybe 200 years old, flying a standard perimeter route. Predictable, sloppy. Mark descended, matched the patrol's vector, came up behind him. The patrol didn't notice. Why would he? This was a hidden outpost. No one knew it existed, no threats this far from Coalition space. Mark activated the sonic gauntlets, set frequency to maximum, waited until he was 5 meters behind the patrol. Then he squeezed. The sonic pulse was invisible, inaudible in vacuum. But the effect was immediate. The patrol's flight pattern wavered. He grabbed his head, began tumbling, equilibrium completely destroyed. Mark closed the distance, grabbed the patrol's helmet, twisted, the neck vertebrae separated with resistance. Viltrumite bone density tough, but not indestructible. Mark applied more force, felt the spine sever. The patrol went limp, dead. Mark held the body, looked at it. First Viltrumite he'd killed, first of many. He felt nothing. He dragged the corpse to a collapsed structure, crater from some ancient impact, hid the body inside, covered it with regolith. It would be days before anyone found it. 1 down, 2 to go. Mark approached the outpost proper, landed on the surface 50 meters from the nearest dome. The structures were connected by pressurized tunnels, all transparent. He could see inside. Empty corridors, minimal lighting. This was a skeleton crew operation. The second target was in the command dome. Female Viltrumite. Mark didn't recognize her from the intelligence files. Probably recent assignment. She was alone in what looked like a communications center, monitoring equipment, routine maintenance. Mark studied the dome's structure, reinforced, designed to withstand micrometeorite impacts and explosive decompression. The airlock was the weak point, but breaching it would trigger alarms. He needed another approach. The life support systems. Every Viltrumite installation had redundant atmospheric processors, but redundant didn't mean invulnerable. Mark circled the dome, found the intake vents, covered by metal grating, easy to remove. He pulled the grating off, looked inside, ductwork leading to the main processor, and beyond that, the female Viltrumite's quarters. Mark crawled into the vent, moved silently. The ductwork was narrow, designed for maintenance drones, not full-sized Viltrumites. His shoulders scraped the sides. He ignored the discomfort, kept moving. The processor room was automated, no guards, just machinery humming in the vacuum. Mark found the atmospheric controls, chemical composition regulators. He pulled up the interface. Standard Viltrumite atmosphere, 78% nitrogen, 21% oxygen, trace gases. He altered the settings. Reduced oxygen to 15%, increased carbon dioxide to 8%. Not enough to trigger immediate alarms, but enough to cause hypoxia over time, confusion, weakness, eventually unconsciousness. Mark crawled back through the ducts, found an observation point overlooking the female Viltrumite's quarters, waited. It took 30 minutes. The Viltrumite started moving slower, touching her head, confused. She tried to contact someone. The comm wasn't working. Mark had disabled it remotely. She stumbled, fell to one knee, tried to reach the airlock to get fresh air. Couldn't make it, collapsed halfway there. Mark waited another 10 minutes, making sure. Then he crawled down, entered her quarters through the ventilation. She was unconscious. Still breathing. Barely he could save her, restore the oxygen, let her wake up. He didn't. Mark grabbed her head, same technique as the patrol. Twist, apply force, feel the spine separate. She died without waking. 2 down, 1 to go. Mark restored the atmospheric settings, erased his modifications from the system logs, moved the body to a storage closet, sealed the door. They'd find her eventually, but not yet. Not until he was done. The third target was the priority. Anissa. Command dome. Central chamber. She'd be the hardest, the most experienced, the most dangerous. Good. Mark approached the command dome's main airlock. No more stealth, no more subtlety. That phase was over. He placed his hand on the access panel, tore it off, exposed the wiring beneath, cross-connected the power circuits. The airlock opened without authorization. Alarms screamed. Red lights flashed. The entire outpost went to alert status. Mark stepped inside. The airlock cycled. Atmosphere flooded the chamber. The inner door opened. Anissa was waiting. She stood in the center of the command chamber, full Viltrumite combat stance. Ready. Alert. Her expression was controlled. Professional. Then she saw him. Saw his face. Recognition flashed across her features. Mark Grayson. Her voice was level. Unsurprised. I wondered if you'd come crawling back. Are you ready to accept? She didn't finish the sentence. Mark activated the sonic traps he'd placed throughout the arena during his approach. Hidden emitters. Positioned in every corner, all frequencies calibrated specifically for Viltrumite physiology. The sound hit Anissa like a physical blow. Her eyes rolled back. Blood leaked from her ears. She lost control of her flight, crashed into the wall, tried to stand, fell again. Mark walked toward her, slowly, methodically. No rush. She wasn't going anywhere. Anissa tried to speak. Her jaw moved. No words came out. Her equilibrium was destroyed. The world was spinning. She couldn't tell up from down. She tried to fly, crashed into the ceiling. Then the floor, then the equipment console. Each impact did damage she couldn't prevent, couldn't compensate for. Mark stood over her, looked down. She was on her hands and knees, blood running from her nose and ears, eyes unfocused, confused, trying to understand what happened, how the confident human hybrid had become this, how the prey had become the predator. We're not talking, Mark said. He grabbed her right arm, the one she'd used to pin him in Chicago, applied pressure, felt the bones resist. Viltrumite density. Tough. He applied more pressure. More. The elbow joint resisted, then gave. The crack echoed in the command chamber. Anissa screamed. Mark released the broken arm, grabbed the left, same process, same result. Another crack, another scream. Anissa fell forward, both arms useless. She tried to use her legs to kick, to get distance. Mark's boot came down on her left knee, sideways, against the joint. The ligaments tore, the patella dislocated, the knee bent wrong. She was still screaming. The sound was raw, animal. All her centuries of combat experience, all her pride, all her superiority, reduced to this, broken on the floor, helpless. Just like Mark had been in Chicago, balance. Mark crouched beside her, grabbed her hair, forced her to look at him. Her eyes were wild, terrified. Pain and fear and confusion all mixed together. What? She gasped. What did I do to you? Mark's expression didn't change. You broke me. Then you left. Big mistake. He activated the second sonic pulse. This one targeted, focused directly on Anissa's inner ear. The frequency was surgical, precise. It ruptured the cochlea, destroyed the semicircular canals, made the damage permanent. Even with Viltrumite healing, this wouldn't repair fully. She'd never fly straight again, never fight with her former precision, would spend the rest of her life with vertigo, with nausea, with the constant reminder of what happened here, if he let her live. Anissa vomited, blood and bile. Her body rejecting the trauma, she curled into a ball, shaking. The proud Viltrumite warrior reduced to a sobbing heap. Mark stood, looked at her, felt nothing. He'd imagined this moment, planned it, every detail, every strike, every broken bone, the revenge he'd spent 3 months preparing for. Now that it was here, it felt empty. Hollow. The satisfaction he'd expected didn't come. The closure he'd hoped for didn't materialize. Killing her wouldn't bring back the Mark who died in that crater, wouldn't undo the humiliation, wouldn't restore what was lost, but it would prevent her from doing this to anyone else. That was enough. Mark pulled the ragnite knuckles from his pouch, slid them over his right hand. The metal was cold, dense, purpose-given form. Anissa looked up at him, saw the knuckles, understood what came next. "Wait," she choked out. "Wait! I can explain," the Empire demanded. "I was following orders." "I don't care about your orders," Mark said. "I don't care about the Empire. I care about what you did to me and what I'm going to do to you. Please. I was wrong. I see that now. You're stronger than I thought. You've proven—" "I haven't proven anything." Mark's voice was flat, empty. "I'm just cleaning up a mistake." Anissa's expression shifted, pride trying to resurface even now, even broken and bleeding and helpless. "You can't kill me. You're not a killer. You're a hero." Mark looked at her for a long moment. Then he showed her his hands. Doc Seismic's blood, the Mauler's blood, the 2 Viltrumites outside, all the evidence she needed. "I was a hero," he said. "You made sure I'm not anymore. Thank you for that lesson." Anissa's face crumpled. The pride vanished, replaced by raw terror. "The Empire will destroy Earth for this. Thrag will. Let him come." Mark raised his ragnite-covered fist. "I'll be waiting." "No, no, no, no. You were supposed to be different." "I was. You made sure I'm not anymore." Mark's fist came down. The ragnite connected with Anissa's skull. The metal disrupted her cellular structure, prevented healing, made the damage stick. He hit her again and again. Methodical, precise, no rage, no passion, just mechanical efficiency. By the 5th strike, she stopped moving. By the 10th, the skull fractured. By the 15th, there was nothing left that looked human or Viltrumite, just broken meat. Mark stopped, looked at his work. The ragnite knuckles were covered in blue Viltrumite blood. His tactical suit was splattered. The command chamber looked like an abattoir. His first Viltrumite kill, the one he'd traveled across the galaxy to achieve, he felt nothing. Mark stood, removed the ragnite knuckles, placed them back in his pouch, looked around the command chamber one last time. Then he walked to the communications array, activated it, set it to broadcast on all Viltrumite Empire frequencies. He dragged Anissa's body into frame, positioned the camera to capture everything, the broken limbs, the shattered skull, the blue blood pooling on the floor. He stepped into frame himself, looked directly at the camera. "My name is Mark Grayson," he said, "son of Nolan. Some of you know me as Invincible. That identity is dead. She tried to break me. She succeeded. Just not the way she intended." Mark's expression was empty, dead. The eyes of something that had stopped being human and hadn't quite become Viltrumite. Something in between, something worse. "Grand Regent Thrag, I know you're watching. I know what the Empire wants from Earth." He paused. Let the weight of his next words settle. "Here's my counteroffer. Stay away from my planet, or I will personally dismantle your empire 1 Viltrumite at a time. I'm not my father. I won't debate philosophy or try to change your minds. I'll just kill you." He pulled up the holographic evidence, the 3 dead Viltrumites, the intelligence files, Anissa's own confession recording he'd extracted during her final moments. "I've learned your tactics, your strengths, your weaknesses, and I don't have my father's hesitation anymore." Mark leaned closer to the camera. "I'm broadcasting my location. If any of you want to test whether I'm bluffing, come to Earth. Bring your best warriors. Bring Thrag himself." He grabbed Anissa's communicator, crushed it in his fist. "Let the pieces fall. I'll be waiting, and I promise you, none of you will leave alive." Surrounded by death, by evidence of what he'd become, he should feel something. Satisfaction, closure, horror at what he'd done. He felt nothing. Mark walked to the airlock, back to his ship. Behind him, the outpost's self-destruct began counting down. He'd triggered it before the broadcast. In 10 minutes, the entire facility would vaporize. All evidence gone, except the broadcast. That would ripple across the galaxy, would reach every Viltrumite outpost, every Empire ship, every warrior. They'd see what happened to Anissa, would see the human hybrid they'd dismissed as weak, would see the threat, Some would be afraid, some would be angry. Some would come for revenge. Good. Let them come. Mark would be ready. The ship's engines engaged. Mark set course for Earth. 3 weeks of travel time. 3 weeks to prepare for whatever came next. He sat in the pilot's chair, watched Thalia, 9 disappear behind him, watched the outpost explode. A brief flash in the void, then nothing. His first hunt was complete. Anissa was dead. The debt was paid. But the door in Mark's mind stayed shut. The emotions stayed locked away. The humanity stayed buried. Because if he let it out now, if he acknowledged what he'd become, he'd break. Completely. Irreparably. So he stayed empty. Stayed cold. Stayed the weapon that Anissa had forged. And somewhere in Empire space, Grand Regent Thrag watched the broadcast. Watched this human hybrid execute one of his warriors. Make threats, challenge the Empire. Thrag smiled. Interesting, he said. Very interesting indeed. He turned to his command staff. Prepare a response. This new Invincible needs to learn his place. He wasn't sleeping. Hadn't slept since leaving Thalia. 9. Just meditated. Conserved energy. Prepared for whatever came next. The alarm meant something was close. Within scanning range. Moving on an intercept course, Mark pulled up the sensor display. 1 contact. Large, Viltrumite biosignature. Stronger than Anissa's had been. Older. More powerful, the contact was matching his velocity. Maintaining distance, not attacking, just following. Mark altered course. 10 degrees starboard. The contact adjusted, maintained the same relative position. Definitely following. Mark opened a communication channel. Identify yourself. Static. Then a voice. Male. Old. Tired. Mark Grayson, son of Nolan. We need to talk. Mark's hands tightened on the controls. I have nothing to say to the Empire. I'm not calling on behalf of the Empire. I'm calling as your father's friend. My name is Thetis. I served with Nolan before his posting to Earth. His father's stories. Thetis, one of the few Viltrumites who'd questioned the Empire's methods, who'd eventually formed the Coalition resistance. What do you want? To warn you, your broadcast reached Thrag 2 days ago. He's dispatched a response force, 3 warriors, elite combat specialists. They'll reach Earth before you do. 3 warriors. What are their capabilities? All older than Anissa, all with more combat experience. They won't underestimate you the way she did. I'm tired of fighting amateurs. Silence on the line. Then, Mark, I saw the footage. What you did to Anissa. That's not you. That's not the person Nolan raised. Nolan didn't raise me. He abandoned me. Twice. I raised myself. You're traumatized. What Anissa did is irrelevant. Mark's voice was flat. Empty. I'm operationally effective. That's all that matters. You killed her. Brutally. Broadcast it to the galaxy. Do you understand what you've done? The Empire sees this as a declaration of war. Earth has been a target since my father betrayed them. This just makes it official. Earth isn't ready for a war with the Empire. The Coalition can offer protection, but you need to. Earth doesn't need the Coalition. It has me. Thetis was quiet for a moment. 1 hybrid against the Viltrumite Empire. Those are suicide odds. I've survived worse. Have you? Because from where I'm standing, you look like someone who's already dead. Just hasn't stopped moving yet. Mark ended the transmission. 3 warriors, elite specialists, coming to Earth, coming for him. He altered course, not toward Earth, toward deep space, away from populated systems. If they wanted a fight, they'd get one. But not near civilians, not where collateral damage could occur. Mark broadcast new coordinates, open frequency. Viltrumite encryption, a challenge, a location. Come alone, come ready, come to die. Then he waited. Mark positioned his ship in the center of the debris, cut all non-essential power, waited in the dark. They came 6 hours later. 3 contacts, all Viltrumite biosignatures. All stronger than Anissa's, they approached in formation, professional, coordinated, not amateurs. Mark exited his ship, floated in vacuum, arms crossed, waiting. The 3 Viltrumites emerged from their own vessels, spread out, forming a triangle with Mark at the center, cutting off escape routes. Tactical. Smart, the leader spoke. Male, scarred face, gray in his hair, old. Dangerous. Mark Grayson. I am Lucan. These are my squad mates, Vex and Craig. Grand Regent Thrag sends his regards. Mark said nothing, studied them. Lucan was the largest, veteran warrior. Centuries of combat experience written in his scars. Vex was leaner, faster, specialist fighter. Craig was the smallest, which meant nothing. The dangerous ones were always deceptively compact. You've been busy, Lucan continued. 3 Viltrumites dead, an outpost destroyed. A rather theatrical broadcast. Impressive. For a hybrid. Thrag wants to know if you're serious, if this is genuine threat or juvenile posturing. So we're here to test you. Mark activated his sonic gauntlets. Test away. Not yet. We're here to see if you're worth the Empire's time. If you can survive what comes next, maybe you get an audience with Thrag himself. If not, he shrugged. Well, at least Anissa's death gets avenged. Mark's eyes narrowed. What comes next? Lucan's smile widened. This. All 3 Viltrumites attacked simultaneously. Not at Mark, at the asteroids. They flew through the debris field, grabbed the largest rocks, threw them, not at Mark, at each other, creating a storm of projectiles turning the entire field into a chaotic maelstrom of tumbling stone. Mark dodged. A house-sized asteroid whistled past his head. Another grazed his shoulder, sent him spinning, he corrected. Blocked a smaller rock with his forearm. It shattered. The fragments pelted him. Dozens of impacts, none serious individually. Together they were disorienting. This wasn't a fight, it was a test. See how he handled chaos. Multiple threats, unpredictable variables. Mark flew upward. Out of the debris field, seeking clear space, Craig was waiting. Emerged from behind an asteroid, fist already moving. Caught Mark in the ribs. The impact drove air from his lungs, sent him tumbling back into the debris. Vex hit him from below. Uppercut. Mark's head snapped back. His vision grayed. Blood filled his mouth. Lucan came from the right. Clothes lined Mark across the throat. Mark's flight path arrested violently. He hung there for a moment, gasping. Then Lucan released, kicked him, sent him careening into an asteroid. Mark hit the rock doing 300 miles per hour. The asteroid shattered from the impact. He tumbled through the fragments. Couldn't orient, couldn't see. The debris was everywhere. A hand grabbed his ankle. Vex swung him like a club, slammed him into another asteroid, then another. Using Mark's body as a battering ram, each impact did damage, fractured ribs, dislocated shoulder, split skin. Vex released. Mark tumbled, tried to catch himself, couldn't. His equilibrium was destroyed. The constant impacts, the disorientation, he couldn't tell which way was up. Craig materialized in front of him, grabbed his head, drove it into his knee. Mark's nose shattered. Blood sprayed. Froze instantly in vacuum. Craig followed up. Elbow to the temple. Mark's vision sparked. Consciousness wavering. He was losing. Being systematically dismantled. 3 against 1. Coordinated. Experienced. Using the environment against him. This was what real Viltrumite combat looked like. Not the broken Anissa, not the disoriented patrol, real warriors, working together, exploiting every advantage. Mark activated his sonic gauntlets. The pulse radiated outward, hit all 3 Viltrumites simultaneously. Their formation broke. Craig clutched his head. Vex's flight pattern wavered. Lucan shook his head, trying to clear it. Mark used the opening, flew at Craig. Ragnite knuckles deployed. His fist connected with Craig's jaw. The metal disrupted the cellular structure, prevented immediate healing. Craig's head snapped sideways. Blood, blue Viltrumite blood, sprayed into vacuum. Mark followed up. Combination strikes, ribs, kidney, throat, each hit enhanced by Ragnite, each impact preventing regeneration. Craig tried to fight back, too disoriented from the sonic pulse, too damaged. Mark grabbed Craig's arm, twisted. The shoulder dislocated. Craig screamed silently in vacuum. Mark twisted further, felt the ligaments tear. The bones separate. Vex hit him from behind, grabbed Mark's broken arm, wrenched it further out of socket. Mark's silent scream matched Craig's. Pain exploded through his nervous system. Vex didn't let go. Used the arm as leverage, spun Mark, threw him into Lucan's waiting fist. The punch caught Mark in the solar plexus. His diaphragm spasmed, couldn't breathe. Lucan grabbed him, headbutted him. Mark's orbital bone cracked. The eye swelled immediately. Vision in that eye went dark. Lucan held Mark by the throat, squeezed. Not enough to kill, just enough to control. Mark's good eye focused on Lucan's face. Saw satisfaction there, saw calculation. You fight well, Lucan said. His voice transmitted through the physical contact, vibrations through flesh and bone. For a hybrid, but you're not ready for the Empire, not yet. Couldn't. Lucan was stronger, older, more experienced. You need more training, Lucan continued. More evolution. Come back when you've truly abandoned your humanity, when you've become what you're meant to be. Then maybe you'll be worth Thrag's time. Lucan released. Mark floated in vacuum. Broken, bleeding, one eye swollen shut, arm dislocated, ribs fractured, humiliated. Again, the three Viltrumites regrouped. Craig's arm was healing already. The Ragnite had slowed the process. But Viltrumite physiology was tough, resilient. Given time, even Ragnite-inflicted damage would fade. Go home, hybrid, Lucan said. Protect your little planet, live your little life. We'll be back when Thrag decides Earth is worth conquering. Until then, he smiled. You're not even a threat, just an annoyance. They left, flew back to their ships, disappeared into the void. Mark floated in the debris field, alone. Defeated, not killed, not captured, just beaten, dismissed, sent away like a child who'd interrupted adult conversation. The humiliation was worse than the pain. Mark grabbed his dislocated shoulder, slammed it against an asteroid. The joint popped back into socket. Agony, but functional. He tested his ribs. 3 broken, 4 cracked. Healing slowly, the eye was swelling shut, vision compromised. The nose was shattered again, 3rd time in 4 months. He'd lost. Badly, the Ragnite knuckles had worked on Craig. The sonic gauntlets had disrupted their formation. But 3 coordinated Viltrumites with centuries of combat experience were more than Mark could handle. Not yet. Lucan's words echoed. Come back when you've truly abandoned your humanity. Mark floated there, thought about what that meant. He'd killed Doc Seismic, the Mauler, Anissa, 3 Viltrumites on Thalia, 9. He'd broken up with Eve, cut off his mother, isolated himself, trained until his body broke and rebuilt stronger. What more could he abandon? The answer came immediately, terrifyingly. Everything. The last remnants of Mark Grayson, the final pieces of humanity he'd been clinging to. The part that still hesitated before killing, still felt wrong about executions, still remembered what it was like to care. All of it had to go. Mark pulled himself to his ship, entered through the airlock, collapsed in the pilot's chair. His body was shutting down. The damage was severe. He needed rest. Real rest. Not meditation. Actual sleep. He closed his eyes. For the first time in weeks, let exhaustion take him. Dreamed. Chicago. The crater, Anissa's weight on top of him, her voice explaining genetics, his uselessness, his weakness, his complete inability to stop what was happening. The dream shifted, became the broadcast, Anissa's broken body, his emotionless delivery, the threat to the Empire, shifted again. The asteroid field. Lucan's face, not yet, the dismissal, the contempt, the casual brutality of warriors who'd been doing this for centuries. Mark woke gasping. Sweat covered his skin. The ship's medical sensors were screaming. Critical injuries detected recommend immediate medical intervention. He ignored them, pulled up the navigation display, set course for Earth. 3 days travel time. 3 days to decide what came next. Lucan wanted him to abandon his humanity completely, to become pure Viltrumite, pure weapon, pure killer. Could Mark do that? Could he kill the last pieces of the person he'd been? The boy who'd wanted to be a hero? Who'd believed in second chances? Who'd loved people? Mark looked at his reflection in the dark viewport, one eye swollen shut, nose crooked, face covered in bruises, the scars from 3 months of high-gravity training, the hollow eyes, the empty expression. That boy was already dead. Had died in Chicago. What remained was just pretending. Still going through the motions, still maintaining the fiction that Mark Grayson existed. Time to stop pretending. Time to kill what was left. Time to become what Earth actually needed. Not a hero, not a symbol. A weapon. Pure, efficient, merciless. A monster. Mark set the ship to autopilot. Went to the cargo bay. Pulled up the weapons manifest. Ragnite alloy, sonic technology, scourge virus antibodies. Not enough. He needed more. Needed to be stronger, faster, harder, more dangerous. He accessed GDA databases remotely, Cecil's Black Ops files, experimental programs, banned technologies, things too dangerous for human use. Their Viltrumite genetic modification, programs developed from studying Omni-Man's blood, techniques to enhance hybrid physiology, to burn away human limitations, to force evolution. The procedures were experimental, untested, success rate unknown, side effects unpredictable. Possible outcomes: enhanced strength, accelerated healing, improved combat capability. Also possible: catastrophic organ failure, neural degradation, death. Mark pulled up the detailed protocols, read them 3 times. Understood the risks. Did it anyway? He prepared the first injection, sat in the medical chair, positioned the needle against his carotid artery, hesitated. This was it, the final step. Once this was done, there'd be no going back, no pretending, no maintaining the fiction. Mark Grayson would be truly dead. What emerged would be something else, something without humanity, without mercy, without weakness. A weapon, perfect and terrible and necessary. Mark depressed the plunger. The genetic modification entered his bloodstream. Spread, began rewriting his cellular structure, burning away human DNA, forcing Viltrumite dominance. The pain was immediate, total, overwhelming. Mark screamed. The sound echoed in the empty ship. No one to hear, no one to stop this. Just him and the agony and the decision he'd made. His body convulsed, bones restructured, muscles tore and reformed, organs adapted. His healing factor went into overdrive, trying to repair damage that wasn't damage, just evolution. Forced, brutal, necessary. Mark blacked out. When he woke, Earth was 2 days away, and Mark Grayson was gone. The genetic modification stabilized on approach to Earth's orbit. Mark lay in the medical chair, monitoring his vitals. Heart rate, 40 beats per minute, down from 72. More efficient, Viltrumite baseline, blood oxygen, 98%. Optimal. Cellular regeneration accelerated by factor of 3.4. The human DNA had been suppressed, dominated, nearly eliminated. He stood, tested his body, moved his arms, his legs. Everything felt different, denser, more responsive. The broken ribs had healed completely during the modification. The dislocated shoulder was functional. Even the shattered nose had reset properly. He looked at his reflection in the polished metal wall. The face was leaner, sharper. The human softness was gone. What remained looked predatory, dangerous, wrong, perfect. The ship's comm crackled. Cecil's voice: "Mark, respond. We've been tracking your approach. What happened out there?" "The sensors show you engaged multiple hostiles. Status report." Mark activated the comm. "Operational, approaching Earth orbit. Request landing clearance for GDA facility." "Granted, but Mark, we need to debrief." The satellite picked up energy signatures consistent with Viltrumite combat. "How many were there?" 3. "They've been handled." "Handled how? Are they dead? Did you—" Mark ended the transmission. Cecil's questions were irrelevant. The 3 warriors had left. They'd be back eventually, when Thrag decided Earth was worth his time. Until then, they didn't matter. What mattered was what came next. The ship descended through atmosphere. Mark didn't use the autopilot, flew manually, tested his enhanced reflexes. The ship responded instantly to his inputs. His reaction time had improved, significantly. The genetic modification was working. He landed at GDA headquarters at dawn. The tarmac was empty except for Cecil and a medical team. Standard protocol for Black Ops returns. Minimal witnesses. Maximum control. Mark opened the airlock, stepped out. The Earth gravity felt wrong. Too light. Like he was floating. The 3 months at 20 G had permanently altered his baseline. Normal gravity was barely noticeable now. Cecil approached, stopped 10 feet away, stared. "What did you do to yourself?" Mark looked at him. Genetic modification. Suppressed human DNA markers. Enhanced Viltrumite physiology, increased combat effectiveness by approximately 32%. Cecil's expression hardened. "You experimented on yourself, with untested procedures. That could have killed you. It didn't. That's not the point. Mark, you're making decisions without oversight, without consultation. I don't need oversight. I need results. You need help. Look at yourself. You're not even human anymore. Good. Humans are weak. I've removed that weakness. Cecil was quiet for a moment. Then, come inside. We're doing a full medical evaluation, no arguments. Mark followed him into the facility, down to sub-level 3, the medical wing. Dr. Herman was waiting with scanning equipment and a concerned expression. Subject Grayson, Herman said. His clinical tone couldn't quite hide the worry. Please sit. We need baseline readings after your... He paused, searched for the word. Modification. Mark sat. Let them scan him, run their tests, check their numbers. Herman's expression grew progressively more alarmed as the data came in. Cellular density increased 43%, bone structure reinforced, muscle fiber composition altered, neural pathway efficiency improved. Your healing factor is... He stopped, looked at Mark. You've essentially eliminated your human genetic markers. You're 97% Viltrumite now. The remaining 3% is... We're not sure. Something new. Functionality? Mark asked. Optimal. Better than optimal. You're physically superior to your previous baseline in every measurable way. But Mark, Herman set down his scanner. The psychological effects of this kind of modification are unknown. You fundamentally altered your brain chemistry, your emotional regulation, your capacity for... Irrelevant, Mark interrupted. I'm operationally effective. That's all that matters. Herman and Cecil exchanged glances. Cecil pulled Mark aside. We need to talk, privately. They went to Cecil's office. The door closed. Cecil didn't sit, just stood there looking at Mark like he was trying to find something, some trace of the person who used to exist. I can't keep doing this, Cecil said finally. I can't keep watching you destroy yourself and pretending it's serving some greater purpose. I'm not destroying myself. I'm optimizing myself. You're erasing yourself. The kid who walked into this facility 4 months ago, idealistic, compassionate, human, he's gone. And what's left is... Cecil gestured at Mark. This, a weapon I can barely control and probably shouldn't. Then don't control me. Point me at threats and let me eliminate them. Simple. It's not simple. You've killed 6 people, mutilated yourself, isolated everyone who cares about you. You're one step away from becoming exactly what your father was afraid you'd become. Mark's expression didn't change. My father was afraid I'd be effective, capable, willing to do what's necessary. He was afraid you'd lose your humanity, become a Viltrumite in all the worst ways. And Mark, Cecil's voice dropped. You're proving him right. Good. Humanity is weakness. I've eliminated that variable. Cecil stared at him for a long moment. Then he made a decision. I'm pulling you from active duty. Mandatory psychological evaluation. Weekly sessions. Non-negotiable. I refuse. It's not a request. You want to operate under GDA authority, you accept GDA requirements. Otherwise, Cecil's hand moved to the panic button on his desk, the one that would flood the room with sonic dampeners and lock Mark in until tactical teams arrived. Otherwise, you're a rogue asset, and I treat you accordingly. Mark looked at the button, at Cecil's finger hovering over it. Calculated his options. He could break Cecil's wrist before the button was pressed, could escape the facility before tactical teams deployed, could disappear into the world and operate completely independently. But that would make Earth's defense forces his enemy, would force him to fight on multiple fronts. Inefficient, agreed, Mark said. Weekly evaluations. But I continue training, continue preparation. Preparation for what? For when Thrag comes, for when the Empire decides Earth is worth conquering. For when my broadcast brings consequences? Cecil lowered his hand. The 3 Viltrumites you encountered. What happened? They tested me. I failed. They left. Just like that? Lucan said I wasn't ready. Said I needed to abandon my humanity completely. Become what I'm meant to be. They'll return when Thrag decides I'm worth his time. And you're, what? Taking his advice? Trying to become the monster he wants you to be? The distinction is irrelevant. Cecil was quiet. Then... Your mother called again, 73 times in the past 3 weeks. She's terrified, thinks you're dead or worse. Mark felt nothing. Tell her I'm operational. Tell her yourself. No, she's a liability, an attachment that can be exploited. Same as Eve, same as anyone who creates emotional connection. I've severed those connections. They won't be exploited again. Cecil's expression shifted, something between pity and disgust. You know what you sound like. You sound exactly like a Viltrumite, cold, calculating, treating people like tactical variables instead of human beings. That's the goal. No, Mark, That's the tragedy. You set out to become strong enough to protect Earth. Instead, you became the thing Earth needs protection from. Mark stood. Are we finished? For now, but Mark, Cecil's voice was hard. I meant what I said, one civilian death. One step too far. And I will put you down, Viltrumite physiology or not. I have contingencies. Understood? Understood. Mark left the office, walked through the facility corridors. Staff members pressed against walls when they saw him coming. Whispered, stared, afraid. Good. He descended to sub-level 5, the training facility, but someone was there, waiting. Eve, she stood in the center of the combat arena, arms crossed, face set. She'd been crying recently. Her eyes were red, but her expression was determined. We need to talk, she said. No. Mark turned to leave. Eve's hand glowed pink. Molecule energy, she transmuted the air between them into a solid wall, blocking his exit. Yes, she said. We do. You're going to stand there and listen, for once. Mark looked at the wall. He could break through it. Easily, she knew that. Which meant she was counting on him choosing not to. Counting on some vestige of who he used to be. She'd be disappointed, but he stayed, for now. Talk. I saw the medical reports. You genetically modified yourself. Eliminated your human DNA. You've literally erased the part of you that made you Mark. Correct. That part was inefficient. That part was you. The person I fell in love with. The person who cared about people, who wanted to help, who... Her voice broke. Who was human enough to love me back? That person is dead. You should accept that. I won't. I refuse to believe the Mark I knew is completely gone. There has to be something left. Some piece of humanity you haven't burned away. Mark looked at her. Really looked. Pink hair, brown eyes, face he'd once found beautiful, body he'd once held, person he'd once cared about. Felt nothing. There isn't, he said. I've eliminated emotional attachment. It's a weakness that nearly destroyed me. I won't make that mistake again. It's not a weakness. Love isn't weakness. Caring about people isn't weakness. When they can break you by threatening what you love. When they can make you helpless by exploiting your attachments. Eve's expression crumpled. Anissa, this is still about what she did to you. This is about tactical optimization. She was a variable, a lesson. I've learned from that lesson. Mark, what she did to you was horrible, unforgivable. But the response to trauma isn't to erase everything that makes you human. It's to heal, to process, to remain vulnerable, to guarantee it happens again. Mark's voice was flat, empty. I refuse. Then you're letting her win. Don't you see? She wanted to break you, make you into a Viltrumite, strip away your humanity, and you're doing exactly what she wanted. No, I'm doing what I need to do to protect Earth. The distinction matters. Killing people, isolating yourself, erasing your own humanity, that's not protection, that's self-destruction. Mark was quiet for a moment, then remove the barrier. Not until you. Mark walked forward. Through the molecular barrier, it resisted, then shattered. Eve's eyes widened. The barrier shouldn't have broken. Her molecular manipulation was absolute over matter. But Mark's Viltrumite physiology was now strong enough to overpower even her powers through pure force. He walked past her, toward the exit. Mark, please. Eve's voice was desperate. Please don't do this. Don't throw away everything we had, everything you were. There has to be another way. There is no other way. Anissa proved that. Lucan confirmed it. The only way to protect Earth is to become strong enough that nothing can break me. And that requires eliminating weakness. All of it. Love isn't a weakness. Your humanity isn't a weakness. Yes, it is. And I've removed it. Accept that or don't. Your choice. He left. The door closed behind him. In the arena, Eve collapsed to her knees, sobbing. The pink energy around her hands flickered, died. She'd tried. Failed. Lost him completely. Mark walked through the corridors, descended to his quarters, sub-level 3, cell number 7, inside. Nothing. Just a bed, a desk, a terminal. No personal items, no photos, no reminders of who he used to be. Perfect. He sat at the desk, pulled up the terminal, accessed training protocols, advanced Viltrumite combat scenarios. He had work to do, improvements to make. Lucan had been right. He wasn't ready yet. But he would be. A message notification appeared. From his mother, Mark, honey, please. I just need to know you're alive. I don't care what you've done or what you've become. You're still my son. Please, just one message. Just let me know you're okay. Mark read it, felt nothing, deleted it, blocked her contact permanently. She wasn't his mother anymore. She was a liability, a weakness, a vector for exploitation. He'd severed that connection, like all the others, like everything that made him vulnerable. Mark pulled up the combat scenarios, set difficulty to maximum, began reviewing Viltrumite warrior profiles, studying their tactics, their patterns, their weaknesses. Somewhere in Empire space, Thrag would be watching, evaluating, deciding when Earth was worth his attention. Let him watch. Let him see what Mark was becoming. Let him understand that Earth's defender was no longer the weak hybrid who'd begged Anissa to stop. Mark was evolution, optimization, pure function stripped of weakness, a weapon. And when Thrag came, when the Empire finally decided to test Earth's defenses, they'd find something they didn't expect. Not a hero, not a defender, not even a warrior, a monster. Created by their own cruelty, forged by their own methods, turned against them by the very lessons they'd taught. Mark smiled. The expression felt wrong, alien. The muscles hadn't moved that way in months. He let it fade, returned to his studies. The work was endless, the improvement necessary, the transformation incomplete. But he was getting closer, day by day, kill by kill, modification by modification, getting closer to becoming what he needed to be, what Earth needed him to be, what Anissa had made him. The door to his cell locked, the lights dimmed, the facility settled into night mode, and in the darkness, the weapon refined itself. The psychological evaluation started at 0900. Dr. Sarah Chen sat across from Mark in the counseling room. Sub-level 2, soundproofed, 2 exits, 1 visible, 1 hidden, standard protocol for evaluating potentially dangerous assets. She looked at her tablet, then at Mark. How are you feeling today? Operational. That's not what I asked. I asked how you're feeling, emotionally. Emotions are irrelevant. Functionality is what matters. Chen made a note. You've undergone significant trauma in the past 4 months. The assault by Anissa, the subsequent isolation, the genetic modification, all of these are major psychological stressors. It's normal to have emotional responses. I don't have emotional responses anymore. I've eliminated that variable. You can't eliminate emotions, Mark. You can suppress them, compartmentalize them, but they don't disappear. Mine have. I'm going to show you some images. I want you to tell me what you see. She pulled up the first image on her tablet, turned it to face Mark. A family, mother, father, 2 children, smiling, park setting, happy. What do you see? Dr. Chen asked. Mark looked at the image. 4 humans. Recreational setting. No tactical significance. Do you feel anything when you look at them? No. Another image. Burning building. Person trapped in a window. Calling for help. And this? Structure fire. Single casualty visible. Standard rescue scenario. Do you want to help that person? Mark considered. If mission parameters require civilian rescue, yes. Otherwise, no. Dr. Chen's expression tightened. Next image. A woman. Pink hair, brown eyes, smiling. Eve. Mark looked at the photo. Felt nothing. This is someone you used to care about, Dr. Chen said. Someone you loved. What do you feel when you see her? Nothing? Nothing at all? No fondness? No regret? No... Nothing. She's a former tactical liability, currently irrelevant. Dr. Chen set down the tablet. Mark, I'm going to be direct with you. You're exhibiting signs of severe dissociative disorder, emotional flattening, depersonalization, dehumanization of others. These are serious psychological conditions that require treatment. I'm not sick. I'm optimized. You're traumatized. There's a difference. The outcome is the same. I'm functionally superior to my previous baseline. Treatment would reverse that. I refuse. Dr. Chen leaned forward. Mark, listen to me carefully. What you're experiencing, this emotional numbness, this inability to connect with others, it's not strength. It's a trauma response. Your mind is protecting itself by shutting down. But that protection comes at a cost. You're losing your humanity, your capacity for empathy, your ability to care about the people you're supposed to be protecting. I protect them more effectively without those distractions. Do you? Or are you just becoming the thing they need protection from? Mark stood. Are we finished? No. Sit down. We're scheduled for an hour. We've used 15 minutes. Mark remained standing. I've answered your questions, submitted to your evaluation. The session is over. Mark, goodbye, Dr. Chen. He left. The door closed behind him. In the counseling room, Dr. Chen sat alone. Made notes on her tablet. Classification, severe dissociative disorder with antisocial features. Recommend immediate intervention and possible involuntary commitment. She sent the report to Cecil. Cecil read the report in his office, then called Mark on the comm. My office, now. Mark arrived 3 minutes later. Cecil gestured to a chair. Mark remained standing. Dr. Chen's evaluation is concerning, Cecil said. She's recommending involuntary psychiatric commitment. Says you're a danger to yourself and others. I'm a danger to threats. That's the job. She says you've lost the ability to distinguish between threats and people, that you see everyone as either assets or liabilities. Accurate assessment. Cecil was quiet. I'm pulling you from all active operations indefinitely. You can't, I can, and I am. You're unstable, unpredictable. The genetic modifications have altered your psychology in ways we can't predict. Until we understand, I'm more effective now than I've ever been. Pulling me from operations reduces Earth's defensive capability. Tactically unsound. Maybe, but necessary. Mark, you need help. Real help. Therapy, time, space to heal from what Anissa did to you. I don't need healing. I need targets. Cecil's hand moved toward his desk drawer, where he kept the sonic emitter. I gave you a chance, multiple chances, to pull back, to get help. You've refused every one. So now I'm making the choice for you. You're grounded, restricted to facility, no operations, no training, just therapy and observation until Dr. Chen clears you. Mark's eyes tracked Cecil's hand, calculated the distance, the time required to cross it, the resistance Cecil could offer, 0 effective resistance. Remove your hand from the drawer, Mark said quietly. Cecil froze. Excuse me? Remove your hand, or I'll remove it for you. The room went very still. Cecil's expression hardened. You're threatening me now, your commanding officer? I'm stating facts. You're attempting to restrict my operational capability. I'm refusing that restriction. Simple. Mark, if you attack me, if you take one step in that direction, you become a rogue asset. An enemy combatant. The GDA will hunt you, the Guardians will hunt you, every hero on this planet will be looking for you. Let them look. Cecil pulled the sonic emitter from the drawer, aimed it at Mark. Last chance. Stand down. Submit to psychiatric evaluation and treatment, or I activate this and we do this the hard way. The device that had worked on Anissa, that had disrupted her equilibrium, made her vulnerable. He'd spent 3 months training in environments specifically designed to enhance his resistance to sonic attacks. The genetic modifications had reinforced his inner ear structure, made it denser, more resilient. The emitter wouldn't work. Not anymore. Activate it, Mark said. Cecil's finger moved to the trigger, hesitated. I don't want to do this. Something that doesn't need your permission, doesn't require your oversight, operates independently. I can't allow that. You can't stop it. Cecil activated the emitter. The sonic pulse hit Mark. Frequency calibrated for Viltrumite inner ear disruption. Maximum power. Enough to incapacitate any Viltrumite for minutes. Mark's head tilted slightly, compensating for the pressure. Then his expression leveled. Neutral. Unaffected. Cecil's eyes widened. That's impossible. The frequency, not anymore. The modifications enhanced my resistance. Your weapon is obsolete. The one that would seal the room and summon tactical teams. Mark was across the desk before Cecil's finger reached the button, grabbed Cecil's wrist, held it. Gentle pressure. Not enough to break, just enough to stop. Don't, Mark said. Cecil looked up at him, saw something in Mark's eyes that made him go pale. What are you? Evolution? Optimization? What Earth needs to survive? You're a monster. Yes, but I'm your monster. Point me at your enemies, or become my enemy. Choose. Cecil tried to pull his wrist free. Couldn't. Mark's grip was absolute. Let go. Will you activate the panic button? Yes. Mark's grip tightened fractionally. Not breaking, just increasing pressure. Final answer? The thing that used to be Mark Grayson staring back at him with dead eyes and perfect calculation. No, Cecil said quietly. I won't activate it. Mark released his wrist, stepped back. Cecil pulled his arm close, rubbed the wrist. It wasn't broken, but it would bruise. Smart choice, Mark said. What happens now? I continue preparing, training, evolving. When Thrag comes, when the Empire decides Earth is worth their attention, I'll be ready. Until then, stay out of my way. And if I don't, Mark looked at him. You're not my enemy, Cecil. Don't make yourself one. Mark, Cecil's voice stopped him. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. Sorry I couldn't help you. Sorry I let you become this. Sorry I failed you. Mark looked back. You didn't fail me. You gave me what I needed. Resources, training, space to evolve. I'm grateful. That's not... Cecil stopped, realized arguing was pointless. What about Eve, your mother, the people who care about you? They care about someone who doesn't exist anymore. They should mourn that person and move on. They won't. Eve especially. She's still trying to reach you, still believes you're in there somewhere. Then she's wasting her time. Mark left the office, walked through the facility. Staff members scattered, word had spread. Mark had threatened the director, resisted sonic weapons, become something the GDA couldn't control. He was a rogue asset now, tolerated because eliminating him was impossible, monitored because ignoring him was dangerous. Perfect. Mark descended to his quarters, sat at his desk, pulled up the terminal. A message was waiting, from an unknown sender, encrypted. Coalition signature. He opened it. Thaddeus's face appeared on screen. Mark, I heard about your modifications, about your conflict with the GDA. I'm reaching out because I think we can help each other. The Coalition needs someone who can operate in areas we can't reach. Someone expendable. Someone who doesn't care about political consequences. You need resources, intelligence, support infrastructure. I'm proposing an arrangement. Thaddeus outlined the details. Coalition would provide Mark with enhanced technology, real-time intelligence on Viltrumite Empire movements, access to hidden safe houses across the galaxy. In exchange, Mark would handle operations too sensitive for official Coalition assets. Assassinations, sabotage, terror strikes against Empire infrastructure. Black operations, completely deniable, perfectly suited for what Mark had become. Think about it, Thaddeus said. You're burning bridges with the GDA, with Earth. You'll need allies. The Coalition can be that, on our terms. Contact me when you're ready. The message ended. Mark sat in silence, considered the offer. Coalition support would enhance his capabilities significantly, give him reach beyond Earth, let him take the fight to the Empire instead of waiting for them to come to him. But it would also make him their tool, their weapon, subject to their priorities instead of his own. Unacceptable. Mark deleted the message. He didn't need the Coalition, didn't need the GDA, didn't need anyone. He was sufficient, solo, independent. A weapon that answered to no one. Mark pulled up his training protocols, set new parameters, increased difficulty. He bested Anissa, failed against Lucan's team. The next encounter needed a different outcome. He needed to be stronger, faster, more dangerous. The modifications had helped, but they weren't enough. What else could he eliminate? What other weakness remained? The answer was simple, terrifying, final. His last connection to humanity, the final piece of Mark Grayson that still existed somewhere in the back of his mind, the part that remembered love, friendship, family, the part that Dr. Chen insisted couldn't be erased. That part had to die, completely, permanently. Mark accessed the medical database, pulled up neurosurgical protocols, procedures for eliminating specific brain functions, amygdala suppression, limbic system modification, emotional center ablation. The procedures were experimental, irreversible, success rate unknown, possible outcomes, complete emotional elimination, also possible vegetative state, brain death, permanent cognitive damage. Mark read the protocols carefully, understood the risks, accepted them, scheduled the procedure for tomorrow at 0800, sent the notification to medical staff, no explanation, no justification, just the appointment. Dr. Herman responded immediately, Mark, these procedures are extremely dangerous, irreversible. We need to discuss. Mark deleted the message. He stood, left his quarters, walked through the facility one last time, past the commissary where he used to eat, the training facility where he used to spar with the Guardians, the offices where he used to plan operations with Cecil. All of it was irrelevant now, remnants of a past that didn't serve his current purpose. He reached the elevator, pressed the button for sub-level 5. The doors closed. In the elevator, alone, Mark looked at his reflection in the polished metal, saw the empty eyes, the predatory posture, the complete absence of humanity. Tomorrow, after the procedure, even the reflection would be gone. What remained would be pure function, pure violence, pure weapon. Earth's perfect defender, stripped of everything that made defense meaningful. The doors opened. Mark stepped out into the training facility, activated the combat simulators, set difficulty to maximum, began fighting, would fight until exhaustion, then fight more, then undergo the procedure, then return to fighting. The cycle was endless, the improvement continuous, the transformation inevitable. Mark Grayson was dead, had died in Chicago, in the crater, under Anissa's weight. What remained was just his echo, his ghost, still pretending to exist. Tomorrow, even the ghost would die, and what emerged would be something new, something terrible, something necessary, a monster, Earth's monster. The final evolution, the simulation enemies surrounded him. Mark fought, killed, fought more, the training room filled with the sounds of combat, breaking, tearing, destroying. And in his office, Cecil watched the security footage, saw Mark fighting simulations with mechanical precision. No wasted movement, no hesitation, no mercy. Cecil pulled up a file, the one marked Contingents Omega, emergency protocols for eliminating a rogue Viltrumite asset. He'd hoped never to use it, hoped Mark would pull back, would recover, would remember who he was. That hope was dead now. Cecil began making calls, assembling resources, preparing for the possibility that Mark would have to be stopped permanently. Because the thing fighting in the training room wasn't Mark Grayson anymore. It was something else. And if it couldn't be controlled, it would have to be destroyed. The neurosurgical suite was sterile white. Mark lay on the operating table at 0800. Dr. Herman stood beside him with a neural interface array. The device would map Mark's brain, identify the emotional centers, allow targeted suppression of specific regions. Last chance to reconsider, Herman said. His voice was tight, professional, but underneath, fear. Once we begin this procedure, the changes are permanent. You won't be able to reverse. Begin, Mark interrupted. Herman hesitated, looked at Cecil standing in the observation window. Cecil's expression was unreadable. He gave a small nod. Herman activated the interface. The neural mapping began. Holographic displays showed Mark's brain structure, the amygdala highlighted in red, limbic system in blue, prefrontal cortex in green. All the regions responsible for emotion, connection, humanity. Targeting sequences loaded, Herman said. Initiating suppression protocol in 3, 2. The alarm screamed, facility-wide, emergency protocols. All personnel to defensive stations. Mark's eyes opened. He sat up, pulled the neural interface from his head. What's happening? Herman asked. Cecil's voice through the intercom. Atmospheric entry detected. Multiple signatures. Viltrumite bio readings. 6 contacts. Incoming fast. Mark was off the table before Herman could react. Out of the surgical suite, up the stairs, to the roof. 6 contrails descending through the morning sky. Sonic booms echoing across Washington, D.C. The contacts were decelerating, coming to ground level, landing in formation around the GDA facility. Mark flew to intercept, rose to meet them at altitude, 200 feet above the building. 6 Viltrumites, all older than Anissa, all bearing Empire insignia, military formation, professional, lethal. The leader was massive, 8 feet tall, scars covering every visible inch of skin. White hair, ancient eyes. He wore formal Viltrumite armor, royal colors, command rank. Mark knew him from intelligence files, from his father's stories, from every coalition briefing on Empire threats. Grand Regent Thrag, the leader of the Viltrumite Empire, the most powerful being in the galaxy, 2,000 years of combat experience, thousands of confirmed kills, never defeated, never even challenged successfully. He hovered in the center of his formation, arms crossed, studying Mark with cold calculation. Mark Grayson, Thrag said. His voice carried absolute authority, command distilled into sound. Son of Nolan, the half-breed who killed Anissa. I've been wanting to meet you. Mark said nothing, assessed the situation. 6 Viltrumites, all elite warriors. Thrag himself present. This was either execution or evaluation. Probably both. Your broadcast was interesting, Thrag continued. Theatrical, emotional, very human, but the underlying message had merit. You challenged the Empire, threatened our operations, killed one of our warriors. The other 5 maintained position, surrounding, cutting off escape routes. So I came personally, to see if you're worth my time, to determine if you're genuine threat or mere annoyance. Thrag stopped 10 feet away. Which are you, half-breed? Mark met his eyes. I'm the thing that kills Viltrumites. Thrag smiled, confident. I appreciate that. But confidence without capability is just noise. So, prove it. He gestured. One of his warriors flew forward. Female. Older than Anissa. Scarred. Experienced. This is Onan, Thrag said. She's been killing rebels for 600 years. If you can defeat her, we'll talk. If you can't, he shrugged. Well, at least Anissa's death gets avenged. Onan took position opposite Mark. Combat stance, ready, waiting. Mark didn't hesitate, activated sonic gauntlets, flew at her, full speed. She was ready, dodged, countered with a strike to his ribs. Mark's enhanced physiology absorbed the impact, barely felt it. He spun. Ragnite knuckles deployed, his fist connected with her jaw. The metal disrupted her cellular structure. Blood sprayed. Onan's head snapped back, but she didn't fall, just smiled, blood on her teeth. Better than Anissa, she said, but not good enough. She grabbed Mark's arm, the one with the Ragnite knuckles. Twisted. Mark's shoulder dislocated. Pain exploded through his nervous system. Onan used the leverage, threw Mark into the GDA building. He crashed through the roof, through 3 floors, stopped in the 4th floor conference room. He pushed himself up. Shoulder was healing, slowly. The dislocation was severe, would take minutes to fully repair. Didn't have minutes. Onan came through the hole he'd made, landed in the conference room. 600 years, half-breed. I've killed thousands of your kind, hybrids, weaklings, pretenders to Viltrumite strength. You're just another. Onan screamed, grabbed her head. Blood poured from her ears. Her equilibrium destroyed. She fell. Couldn't orient, couldn't defend. Mark didn't give her time to recover. Grabbed her head, Ragnite knuckles still deployed, drove his fist into her temple, once, twice, 3 times. On the 4th strike, her skull fractured. On the 7th, it caved. On the 10th, she stopped moving. Mark dropped the body, looked up through the hole in the building. Thrag was there, watching, expression unchanged. Adequate, Thrag said. You defeated Onan, that's more than most hybrids accomplish. But she was merely competent, not exceptional. Let's see how you handle someone with real skill. Another warrior descended, male, lean, fast. His movements were precise, economical, expert fighter. Craig, Thrag said, You've met. He's been training since you last encountered him, specifically to counter your techniques. Show me if you've improved equally. Craig flew at Mark, faster than before. Mark's sonic gauntlets activated. Craig anticipated, dodged the pulse, got inside Mark's guard. Combination strikes. Ribs, kidney, throat. Each hit surgical, precise. Mark tried to counter. Craig was faster. Blocked. Swept Mark's legs. Mark fell. Craig's boot came down toward his head. Mark rolled. The boot cratered the floor where his skull had been. Mark grabbed Craig's ankle. Twisted. Craig jumped. Used the momentum, kicked Mark in the face with his free leg. Mark's nose shattered. Vision blurred. Craig landed. Pressed advantage. More strikes. More damage. Mark was losing again. The genetic modifications had made him stronger, but Craig had adapted, had trained, had studied Mark's patterns from their first encounter. This was the difference between enhanced hybrid and true Viltrumite warrior. Experience, adaptation, skill refined over centuries. Mark was outmatched. Craig grabbed him, threw him through the building's exterior wall. Mark tumbled through open air, crashed into the street. Pavement cracked, cars crumpled, civilians scattered, screaming, running. Mark stood in the crater, bleeding, broken, defeated. Craig descended, landed opposite him. You've improved, but not enough. You're still fighting like a human, still holding back, still. Shut up, Mark said. Craig blinked. What? I said shut up. I'm tired of Viltrumites telling me what I am, what I'm not. What I need to become. Mark's hands clenched. You want to see what I am? Fine. He stopped holding back, stopped calculating, stopped thinking tactically, stopped fighting like he'd been trained, just moved. Pure instinct, pure violence, pure Viltrumite rage channeled through hybrid physiology. He was on Craig before the warrior could react. No technique, no precision, just overwhelming force. Fists, elbows, headbutts, knees. Every part of his body a weapon, every strike meant to destroy. Craig tried to defend. Too slow, too surprised. Mark's assault was feral. Animal, wrong. Viltrumites fought with precision, with skill, with controlled aggression. This was chaos. This was a cornered animal fighting for survival. This was everything the Empire had tried to train out of their warriors. This was human desperation mixed with Viltrumite power. Craig's defense broke. Mark's fist connected with his jaw, shattered it. Craig stumbled. Mark grabbed his head, drove his knee up. Craig's nose exploded. Blood everywhere. Mark didn't stop. Couldn't stop. The dam had broken. All the rage, all the humiliation, all the pain from Chicago, from the asteroid field, from 4 months of systematic self-destruction. It poured out. He beat Craig into the pavement, broke bones, tore flesh, made the warrior scream, made him beg, then stopped, stood over him, breathing hard, covered in blood. Craig's blood, his own blood. Mixed together, Craig wasn't moving, was still breathing. Barely, but defeated. Broken. Mark looked up. Thrag was there, still hovering. Still watching, the other 4 warriors looked shocked, disturbed. They'd never seen one of their own beaten like that. Reduced to meat, Thrag descended, landed in the street, walked to Mark, studied him, then looked at Craig's broken body. Interesting, Thrag said. Very interesting. You fight like an animal. No discipline, no technique. Just rage and power. It's crude, inefficient, wasteful. You defeated 2 of my warriors. That's more than any hybrid has ever accomplished. Thrag circled Mark. You're not Viltrumite. Not really. But you're not human either. You're something in between. Something new. Something I haven't encountered before. Mark said nothing. Just breathed. Tried to control the shaking. The rage was fading, leaving emptiness, exhaustion. I came here to evaluate you, Thrag continued, to determine if you're worthy of the Empire's attention. If you're a threat that needs immediate elimination. He stopped circling, faced Mark directly. I've made my decision. The other 4 warriors tensed, ready to attack, ready to execute. Thrag raised a hand. They held position. You're not a threat, Thrag said. Not yet. You're potential. Raw. Undeveloped, but potential nonetheless. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to continue your evolution. Continue removing your human weakness. Continue becoming what you're meant to be. And when you're ready, when you've fully embraced your Viltrumite nature, we'll meet again. Why? Mark asked, voice hoarse. Because the Empire needs warriors. Strong ones. Skilled ones. You could be that. With proper training, proper conditioning, proper purpose. Thrag gestured at Earth. This planet is beneath you. These humans are beneath you. You're wasting yourself protecting them. Serving them when you could be conquering. Dominating. Taking your rightful place in the Empire. I'm not joining your Empire. Not today. But eventually, when you realize protecting weakness is futile, when you understand that strength is the only currency that matters, when you become what Anissa tried to make you. Thrag smiled. You're already halfway there. I can see it. The emptiness in your eyes, the absence of humanity. You've killed what you were. You just haven't accepted what you're becoming. Thrag turned, walked back to his warriors. We're leaving. Earth remains off limits, for now. But Mark Grayson, he looked back. When you're ready, when you've completed your transformation, contact us. The Empire has a place for warriors like what you're becoming. Think about it. The 6 Viltrumites flew, ascended, disappeared into the sky. Gone, Mark stood alone in the destroyed street, surrounded by rubble, by Onan's corpse, by Craig's broken body, by evidence of what he'd done. Cecil approached, slowly, carefully, like approaching a wounded animal. Mark, are you? I'm fine. You're covered in blood, your shoulders dislocated, your nose is broken, I said I'm fine. Mark's voice was flat. Dead. 2 more Viltrumites dead. Thrag evaluated and departed. Earth is safe. For now, mission accomplished. He walked past Cecil, past the gathering GDA operatives, past the medical teams rushing toward Craig's body. None of it mattered. Thrag's words echoed in his mind. You're not a threat. Not yet. But he would be. Would continue the evolution, continue the transformation, continue becoming the thing that could threaten the Empire. Because that's what Earth needed. Not a hero, not a defender, a weapon capable of standing against the most powerful beings in the galaxy. Even if that meant becoming a monster, even if that meant losing every trace of humanity, even if that meant proving Thrag right, Mark walked back into the GDA facility, down to sub-level 3, to his quarters, to his cell, sat at his desk, pulled up the terminal, began planning, training, preparing. Thrag would be back, eventually, when Earth was worth conquering, when Mark was worth fighting. Mark would be ready, would be stronger, would be the threat Thrag didn't see yet, would be the thing that killed Grand Regents. The door to his cell closed, locked. The facility settled, and in the darkness, the weapon continued its refinement. Not complete, not yet, but getting closer, day by day, kill by kill, evolution by evolution, getting closer to becoming what Earth needed, what the Empire feared, what Mark Grayson had died to create, a monster. Their monster. The final form, the neurosurgical suite, remained empty for 3 days. Mark didn't return. The procedure was never completed. Dr. Herman dismantled the equipment, filed the cancellation report, noted that the subject had declined voluntary brain modification following emergency intervention. What Herman didn't note, the intervention had changed nothing. The procedure was irrelevant. Mark's emotional centers were already gone, had been burned away through 4 months of systematic trauma and self-destruction. The surgery would have just made it official. Mark stood on the GDA roof at midnight, 3 days after Thrag's visit, watching the city below. Millions of lights, millions of lives, all of them dependent on protection they didn't know was provided by something that no longer cared about them. The door behind him opened, Cecil emerged, walked to the edge, stood beside Mark, both of them silent for a moment. The Senate committee wants you arrested, Cecil said finally, charged with 2 counts of murder. Onan and that Mahler twin, they're calling you a war criminal. Let them. I told them no. Told them you operate under classified protocols, Black Ops asset, necessary evil. They weren't happy. I don't care if they're happy. Cecil was quiet. Then, Craig survived. Barely. Medical managed to stabilize him. He's in a coma. Might wake up. Might not. Either way, he's broken. We'll never fight again. Mark said nothing. Thrag's words are all over coalition intelligence networks. Not a threat, not yet. Everyone's interpreting it different ways. Some think he's underestimating you. Others think he sees exactly what you're becoming, and he's waiting for you to finish the transformation, to become fully Viltrumite so he can recruit you. He'll be waiting forever. Will he? Because from where I'm standing, you're 97% there. You've eliminated your emotions, isolated everyone who cares about you, killed without hesitation, modified your genetics to erase your humanity. What's left that makes you different from them? Mark turned, looked at Cecil. Intent. I kill to protect, they kill to dominate. The method is the same. The purpose is different. Is it? Or is that just what you tell yourself so you can sleep at night? I don't sleep. That's my point. Cecil pulled out a tablet, showed Mark a file. This is Contingency Omega, emergency protocol for eliminating a rogue Viltrumite asset. I've been building it for 4 months. Ever since you killed Doc Seismic, Radnite-tipped missiles, Scourge virus deployment protocols, coalition strike teams, Guardian backup, every resource Earth had, coordinated into a single purpose, killing Mark Grayson if he became a threat. I don't want to use this, Cecil said, but I will if you cross the line. If you hurt civilians, if you become what your father was afraid you'd become, I will activate Omega and I will put you down. Clear? Mark looked at the file. At the resources Cecil had assembled, the planning, the preparation. It was comprehensive, professional, exactly what Mark would have done in Cecil's position. Clear, Mark said. But you should know, it won't work. I've studied these protocols, I know their weaknesses. If you activate Omega, I'll survive, and then you become my enemy, permanently. Cecil stared at him. You'd really fight Earth? Kill the people you're supposed to protect? No. But I'd eliminate the threat you represent. You. The committee. Anyone who interferes with my operational capacity. I wouldn't kill civilians, just the people trying to stop me from protecting them. That's insane logic. Preserve mission effectiveness. Simple. Cecil closed the tablet. You know what the worst part is? I can't even tell if you're bluffing. If there's any part of Mark Grayson left in there who wouldn't actually do what you're describing, or if you're really this far gone. Mark didn't respond. Cecil turned to leave. Stopped. Eve came to see me yesterday. She's not giving up, still thinks she can reach you, still believes you're in there somewhere. She's wrong, probably, but she won't accept that. Your mother won't either. They're both holding on to hope that you'll come back, that the trauma will heal, that you'll remember who you were. It would be easier for everyone. Cecil left. The door closed. Mark was alone again. He pulled out his communicator, the encrypted one, accessed coalition databases, pulled up Viltrumite Empire tracking data. Thrag's flagship had left Earth's system 2 days ago, was heading toward Empire space. Standard route? Predictable. Mark could intercept, could attack, could try to kill Thrag while he was vulnerable. Traveling, away from reinforcements. Suicide? Thrag was 2,000 years old, had never been defeated. Mark had barely survived Craig. Thrag would kill him in seconds. Not yet. Not ready. Need more time, more training, more evolution. Thrag's words echoed again. Come back when you've truly abandoned your humanity. Mark looked at his hands, the ones that had killed Onan. Broken Craig, crushed Doc Seismic's throat. They were steady, no shaking, no guilt, no regret, just tools, weapons, extensions of purpose. He was close, so close to the final form, to the thing that could threaten Grand Regents. Just a few more steps, a few more sacrifices. The door opened again. Mark turned, expected Cecil, found Eve instead. She stood in the doorway, pink hair pulled back, eyes red from crying, but her expression was determined, set. I'm not leaving, she said. You can tell me to go, threaten me, push me away. I don't care. I'm staying until you talk to me, really talk. Not the robot responses, not the tactical assessments, just truth. Mark looked at her. There's nothing to say. There's everything to say. 4 months ago, you were the person I loved, the person who wanted to help people, who cared about making the world better. Now you're... Her voice broke. Now you're this, and I need to know if he's really gone, if the Mark I loved is really dead, or if he's just buried so deep you can't find him anymore. He's dead. I told you this. I don't believe you. Your belief is irrelevant. Eve walked onto the roof, stood in front of him. Look at me. Really look at me. Tell me you feel nothing. Tell me looking at my face doesn't remind you of anything. Any moment we shared, any conversation we had, any time you told me you loved me. Mark looked at her brown eyes, face he'd once kissed, person he'd once held, voice he'd once wanted to hear every day. Felt nothing. I feel nothing, he said. Eve's face crumpled. You're lying. I'm not. The emotional centers that connected to you are gone, eliminated. You're just a person now, no different from anyone else, a former tactical liability I've successfully severed. Stop using military language to describe relationships. I'm not a liability. I'm the person who loves you. We love someone who doesn't exist. He exists. He has to exist. People don't just disappear. Trauma doesn't erase someone completely. There has to be something left. Mark was quiet for a moment, then, there isn't. I've checked. I've searched. I've looked for any remnant of the person you remember, any trace of Mark Grayson. He's gone. What remains is function, purpose, mission. That's all. Eve's molecular powers activated, pink energy surrounding her hands. Then prove it. Hit me. If you're really just a weapon, just a mission, just function without humanity, hit me, right now. Show me you're capable of hurting someone you used to love. Mark looked at her, at the challenge, at the test. He could do it, could strike her, prove the point, demonstrate that emotional attachment was truly dead. His hand raised, formed a fist. Eve didn't flinch, just stood there, crying, waiting. Mark's fist stopped, 6 inches from her face, held there, trembling. Not from hesitation, from the effort of stopping, the combat instinct wanting to complete the strike, the tactical part of his brain identifying her as an obstacle, as something to be removed. But he didn't hit her. Eve saw. Her expression shifted. hope flooding back. You stopped. You couldn't do it. That means something. That means he's still not an obstacle, just irrelevant. Hitting you serves no tactical purpose, that's all. I don't believe you. Believe what you want. It doesn't change reality. Mark walked past her, toward the door. Go home, Eve. Mourn Mark Grayson. Move on with your life. Find someone who can love you back. I'm not that person anymore. What if I won't? What if I keep coming back? Keep trying to reach you? Mark stopped, didn't turn around. Then you'll waste your time. But it's your time to waste. Do what you want. He left. Eve stood alone on the roof, sobbing. The pink energy around her hands flickered, died. She'd tried, failed, lost him. But she'd seen something. In that moment when his fist stopped, some tiny fragment of hesitation, of the person he used to be. It was enough. She'd keep trying, keep hoping, keep believing he was in there somewhere, even if he wasn't. 1 week later, Mark stood in a warehouse outside Washington. The building was abandoned, isolated, perfect for what came next. He'd spent the week training, 18 hours a day, combat simulations, strength conditioning, tactical scenario planning, preparing for the inevitable return, for when Thrag came back, for when the Empire decided Earth was worth conquering. But tonight was different. Tonight was closure. Mark had sent one final message to his mother. Simple text. Meet me. These coordinates. Come alone. Debbie Grayson entered at 2100 hours, exactly on time. She saw him. Her face showed relief, fear, love, all mixed together. Mark. She walked toward him slowly, like approaching a wild animal. Thank God. I've been so worried. The news reports, the footage, what you've done, what you've become. I'm not what I was, Mark said. I need you to understand that. I know you've been through something terrible, what Anissa did to you. But honey, we can get through this. Together, I can help you heal. I don't want to heal. I want you to stop trying. Debbie stopped. What? Stop calling, stop leaving messages, stop hoping I'll come back. The person you raised is dead. Accept that, mourn that, move on. I can't do that. You're my son, I'll never give up on you. You need to, because I'm giving up on you. Mark's voice was flat, clinical. You're a vulnerability, an attachment someone can exploit. Anissa proved that emotional connections are weaknesses. I'm eliminating all weaknesses, including this one. Debbie's eyes filled with tears. You don't mean that. I do. This is goodbye. Permanent, final. Don't try to contact me again. Don't try to see me. Just live your life. Pretend you never had a son. It'll be easier. Mark, please. There's nothing left to discuss. Mark turned toward the door. Live well. Stay safe. Forget about me. I could never forget about you. You're my child. I carried you. I raised you. I watched you become a hero. I'm not abandoning you just because you're hurting. Mark stopped, looked back. I'm not hurting. I'm optimized. There's a difference. No, you're traumatized, broken, running from pain by pretending you don't feel anything. But you do feel. I saw it in your eyes when I walked in. Some part of you is still in there, still my son. You're wrong. Then prove it. Look me in the eyes and tell me you feel nothing for me. That every memory we shared means nothing. That I'm just a tactical variable you're eliminating. Say it. Make me believe it. Who'd bandaged his childhood cuts? Who'd stayed when his father left? Who'd loved him unconditionally for 18 years? Felt nothing. You're just a tactical variable I'm eliminating, he said, voice steady, empty, true. Debbie's face broke completely. The hope drained away, replaced by grief, understanding, acceptance. Okay, she whispered. Okay, if that's what you need, if cutting me off helps you survive, then I'll accept it. But Mark, she walked closer, looked up at him. I'll never stop loving you, even if you can't love me back. Even if you become a monster, even if you do terrible things. You're still my son, always will be. And if you ever need me, ever want to come home, the door is open. She touched his face, gentle, maternal, the way she used to when he was a child. Mark didn't pull away, just stood there, let her have the moment. Then she left, walked out of the warehouse, drove away, gone. Mark stood alone. In the empty building, in the silence, he'd done it. Severed the final attachment, eliminated the last vulnerability, cut away the last piece of humanity that someone could use against him. He was complete now, fully evolved, fully optimized, fully alone. The The weapon Earth needed, stripped of everything that made protection meaningful, but still protecting, still defending, still standing guard. Mark left the warehouse, flew into the night sky, over Washington, over America, over Earth. Below, 8 billion people, living their lives unaware of the monster watching over them, the thing that had sacrificed its humanity so they could keep theirs. Mark flew to his new base, not the GDA facility. He'd left that a week ago. This was something else. An orbital station positioned between Earth and the Moon, built from salvaged Viltrumite technology, isolated, defensible. Perfect. He landed in the docking bay, entered the station. It was bare. Functional, no comforts, no personal items, just weapons, equipment, resources. A message was waiting on the main terminal. Coalition signature. Thetis. Mark, I heard about your confrontation with Thrag, about Onan and Craig. The galaxy is watching you now, wondering what you'll become. The Empire sees potential. The Coalition sees threat. I see tragedy. A good person destroyed by trauma and turned into a weapon. If you ever want to talk, ever want help becoming human again, contact me. The offer stands. Mark deleted the message. Another message. From Cecil. Weekly psych eval scheduled. You missed it. Missing another triggers contingency, Omega. Your choice. Mark considered, then sent a response. I'll attend, but only to maintain the illusion of cooperation. We both know your contingency won't work. Let's pretend anyway. Cecil's response came immediately. You're probably right, but I have to try. See you Thursday. One final message. From Eve, no words, just a photo, the two of them. 6 months ago. Happy. Together. Human. Mark looked at the photo, at the person he used to be. Saw a stranger. Someone weak, vulnerable, incapable of protecting what mattered. He deleted the photo, deleted the message, deleted the contact. Sat in his command chair, pulled up the displays, Earth rotating below. Coalition tracking data, Empire movement patterns, Viltrumite fleet positions. Thrag's flagship was 3 systems away, heading deeper into Empire space, away from Earth. For now. But he'd be back, eventually, when Earth was worth conquering, when Mark was worth fighting. Mark would be ready, would be stronger, would be the threat Thrag didn't see yet, would be the monster that killed Grand Regents. He pulled up training protocols, set new parameters, increased difficulty beyond maximum, made it impossible, then began anyway, because impossible was just another variable to eliminate, another weakness to burn away, another step in the evolution. The station's view screen showed Earth, beautiful, fragile, defended by something that no longer cared about beauty, only function, only survival, only victory. Mark Grayson was dead, had died in a crater in Chicago, under Anissa's weight in that moment when something inside him broke differently than it should have. What remained was Earth's weapon, forged through trauma, refined through pain, perfected through sacrifice. A monster, necessary, terrible, alone, but effective, and that was enough. Below, in Washington, Eve stood on her apartment balcony, looking at the stars, wondering which one held Mark's station, still hoping, still believing, still refusing to give up. In suburban Virginia, Debbie Grayson sat in her kitchen, looking at photo albums, old pictures of her son, before Chicago, before everything, crying, grieving, but accepting. The door would stay open, even if he never walked through it again. In GDA headquarters, Cecil reviewed Contingency Omega, made adjustments, added resources, prepared for the possibility that the weapon he'd helped create would turn against its makers, hope for the best, plan for the worst, and in space, in an orbital station in complete isolation, Mark trained, fought, evolved. The weapon refined itself endlessly, preparing for threats that would come, for battles that would define Earth's future. For the moment when Thrag returned and found not a traumatized hybrid, but something worse, something that proved monsters could be made, could be necessary, could save worlds by sacrificing everything that made salvation meaningful. The monitor showed Earth, rotating, peaceful, protected. Mark watched it, felt nothing, just calculated optimal defensive positions, threat response scenarios, contingencies, the monster we need, he thought. Not the hero we deserved, just the weapon we required. And that would have to be enough. Let us know what you'd like to see next. The end.